She missed the shot. Again. The instructor's eyes burned into her back like lasers. Staff Sergeant Lena Ward, once decorated, now a walking punchline at Iron Ridge Tactical Center. Every reload fumbled, every doorway cleared too slow. When the flashbang detonated during the breach drill, she froze, just stood there, like a statue. Whispers spread through Class Echo 9 like wildfire. She's done, washed up, dangerous. One more failure, and she'd be gone. Then a black SUV with government plates rolled through the gate. A SEAL commander stepped out. He didn't review her scores, he gave one order. Everything changed. If you want to see how Lena's story unfolds, stick with me until the very end. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The desert doesn't care who you used to be. Iron Ridge Tactical Center sat in the middle of nowhere, Arizona, like a scar on the earth. Chain-link fences, prefab buildings, and ranges that stretched into heat-shimmer oblivion. This was where the military sent people to prove they still belonged, or to prove they didn't. Staff Sergeant Lena Ward fell into the second category. She stood at the firing line, M4 carbine shouldered, eyes fixed downrange through iron sights that felt foreign in her hands. Around her, Class Echo 9 worked through their qual course with mechanical precision. Snap, breathe, squeeze, brass casings clinked onto concrete, targets pinged, scoreboards updated, Lena's stayed the same. Ward, you're drifting left, Gunnery Sergeant Kowalski's voice cut through her ear protection like a blade. Anticipating recoil, sight pictures collapsing before the break. She knew, God, she knew, but knowing didn't help. Her trigger finger felt too heavy. Her breathing never settled. The rifle kicked and her shoulders tensed and the round went wide. Again. Cease fire, Kowalski barked. The line went quiet. Bolts locked back. Magazines dropped. Everyone turned to look at the scoreboards mounted on the control tower. Mendez, 287 out of 300. Qualified expert. Torres, 276 out of 300. Qualified expert. Chen, 281 out of 300, qualified expert. Ward, 198 out of 300, unqualified. Lena safed her weapon and stepped back from the line. She didn't look at the others. Didn't need to. She could feel their stares, some pitying, most contemptuous, all uncomfortable. Hit the armory, Kowalski said, not meeting her eyes. Clean that weapon. Again. Roger, Gunny. She walked alone across the compound, dust kicking up from her boots, M4 slung across her back like dead weight. The Arizona sun hammered down without mercy. Sweat traced lines through the grit on her face. Behind her, she heard Torres mutter to Mendez, "How the hell did she even make it to E6? Probably before she lost it," Mendez replied. Lost what? Whatever edge she had. Lena kept walking. Their words didn't matter. She'd heard worse. Thought worse about herself. The armory was blessedly empty and air-conditioned. She claimed a cleaning station in the back corner and field-stripped her rifle with movements that were still muscle memory. Bolt carrier group out, charging handle, handguards, buffer spring. The familiar ritual should have been calming. It wasn't. Her hands shook, just barely, just enough to notice. She stared at her palms, calloused, scarred, steady for years until they suddenly weren't. No tremor during admin work, no problem holding coffee, but put a rifle in her hands under pressure and everything fell apart. The door banged open. Chen and Torres walked in, laughing about something, still riding the high of their qual scores. The laughter died when they saw her. "Oh, hey Ward?" Chen's discomfort was palpable. "Chen." Lena kept her eyes on the carbon fouling she was scrubbing from the bolt face. Torres grabbed his cleaning kit without a word. The silence stretched, broken only by the hiss of aerosol CLP and the scrape of bore brushes. Finally, Chen couldn't take it anymore. "Look, if you need help with your fundamentals, I'm good." Lena's voice was flat. "Right, sure, just, if you wash out, it's not—" "I said I'm good, Chen." He exchanged a glance with Torres, then shrugged. They finished their work in uncomfortable silence and left. Lena sat alone with her disassembled rifle and the weight of failure pressing down on her chest like a knee. That evening, the class gathered in the briefing room for their daily performance review. Instructor Cadre stood at the front, Kowalski, Master Sergeant Pike, and Lieutenant Vance, the officer overseeing Echo 9's training cycle. Vance pulled up the day's scores on the projector. Overall, solid showing. We've got 12 qualified experts out of 15 students. That's above average for week 2. 12 out of 15. 3 failures. Lena knew she was one of them without looking. Now, some of you are still working through basic marksmanship issues. Vance's eyes didn't drift toward Lena, but everyone else's did. That's fine. We've got time. But I need to see measurable improvement by Friday's evaluation, or we're going to have a conversation about whether you belong in this program. Friday, 3 days. Lena wrote it down in her notebook, though she didn't need to. The deadline was already carved into her skull. Tomorrow we're running CQB drills, Pike announced, his voice like gravel in a cement mixer. Close quarters battle, urban environment. You'll work in fire teams clearing structures, communication, angles, speed, violence of action. This isn't a rifle range where you can take your time. Hesitation gets you killed. Hesitation gets your team killed. Lena's stomach twisted. CQB, close quarters, tight spaces, loud noises, chaos. She'd failed every CQB drill so far. Not just failed, collapsed. Something about the confined spaces, the sudden explosions of sound, the pressure of teammates depending on her. It triggered something she couldn't control. Her body would lock up. Her mind would go blank. She'd stand frozen in doorways while instructors screamed at her to move. Questions? Vance asked. Silence. Good. Get some chow and rack out early. Tomorrow's gonna suck. The class filed out. Lena stayed behind, pretending to review her notes until the room emptied. When she finally emerged, the sky had turned purple-orange, and the desert had started to exhale the day's heat. She walked toward the chow hall, but veered off at the last moment, unable to stomach the thought of sitting among her classmates. Instead, she ended up at the outdoor pull-up bars near the barracks. Someone had left a speed bag hanging from a frame. She wrapped her hands in athletic tape and started hitting it. Rhythm, focus, control. Thud, 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 thud. Her fists found the bag again and again, sweat soaking through her shirt, breath coming harder. This, at least, she could still do. This didn't freeze her up or make her hands shake. You keep punching like that, you're going to break a knuckle. Lena spun around. Master Sergeant Pike stood a few yards away, arms crossed, expression unreadable in the twilight. Just blowing off steam, Master Sergeant. Uh-huh. Pike stepped closer, studying her with eyes that had seen too many soldiers break to be fooled by brave faces. You know what your problem is, Ward? I'm sure you'll tell me. You're fighting yourself. Lena unwrapped her hand slowly. I don't follow. Yes, you do. Pike sat on a nearby bench, gesturing for her to join him. She hesitated, then sat. I've been doing this for 23 years. I've seen every kind of washout there is. The ones who don't have the talent, the ones who don't have the heart, the ones who just don't belong. He paused. You're not any of those. My scores say different. Your scores say you can't perform under the conditions we're giving you. That's not the same thing. Lena looked at him sharply. What's that supposed to mean? Pike was quiet for a long moment, choosing his words carefully. I pulled your file, Ward, not the sanitized version they give us, the real one. Took some calls to some people who owe me favors. Lena's blood went cold. You had no right. You were attached to a special mission unit, classified tasking, records sealed, honorable discharge after a blast injury in theater. Pike's voice was low, almost gentle. But here's what I can't figure out. Soldiers with your record don't just fall apart. Not like this. Not without a reason. Lena stood abruptly. I appreciate your concern, Master Sergeant, but my past duty assignments aren't relevant to... Sit down. The command in his voice was absolute. Lena sat. Pike leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I don't know what happened to you. I don't know what that unit did or what you went through, but I know this. You're not broken. You're locked. Like there's something inside you that you can't access anymore, and it's eating you alive. Lena's throat tightened. She looked away, blinking hard. I can't help you if you won't talk, Pike said quietly. There's nothing to talk about. Bullshit. They sat in silence as the stars began to emerge, pinpricks of light in the darkening sky. Finally, Pike stood. Friday's your last chance, Ward. You know that, right? Yes, Master Sergeant. Then get your head straight. Whatever's in your way, find a way around it, over it, or through it. Because right now, you're not just failing yourself. You're making me look like an idiot for believing you belonged here. He walked away, leaving Lena alone with the night and the weight of expectations she couldn't meet. Day 3. CQB drills. The shoot house was a maze of plywood walls and dimly lit corridors designed to simulate urban combat environments. 4-person fire teams, live training rounds, plastic bullets that still hurt like hell and left welts, simulated explosives, strobe lights, smoke, controlled chaos. Lena's team consisted of her, Mendez, Torres, and a quiet kid from Kentucky named Hicks. They geared up in the staging area, plate carriers, helmets, eye protection, comm sets. All right, listen up, Kowalski briefed them. You're entering a structure with multiple hostile actors and 1 civilian hostage. Your objective? Neutralize threats, secure the hostage, extract. You will be graded on speed, accuracy, communication, and tactical soundness. Questions? None. First team, you're up. Lena's stomach churned. They weren't first. That was good. She could watch others go, see the layout, prepare. The first team breached. Simulated flashbangs detonated with ear-splitting crack-bang reports. Shouts. Gunfire. The controlled chaos of CQB echoed from inside the structure. 3 minutes later, they emerged. Hostage secure. 2 failures to engage. 1 friendly fire incident. Sloppy, Kowalski growled. Next team, you're up. Team after team cycled through. Some did well. Some didn't. Lena's hands grew clammy inside her gloves. Echo 4, you're up. Ward, Mendez, Torres, Hicks, stack up. Lena took her position, number 3 in the stack behind Mendez and Torres ahead of Hicks. Her rifle felt like it weighed 100 pounds. Comms check, Mendez said from the 1 position. 2, good, Torres confirmed. 3, good, Lena managed. 4, good, Hicks echoed. They approached the door. Mendez's hand went up, fingers counted down. 3, 2, 1. Torres yanked the door open. Mendez tossed the sim grenade. Crack bang. The world turned into strobing light and deafening noise. Lena's vision blurred. Her ears rang. Mendez and Torres flowed through the doorway, weapons up, barking commands. Move! 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 Lena's feet were stuck to the ground. Ward, what the fuck? Move! Torres's voice crackled over comms. She couldn't. Her legs wouldn't respond. The noise, the flashing lights, the confined space, it all crashed over her like a wave, pulling her under. Inside the shoot house, Mendez and Torres were clearing rooms without their 3rd man, shouting, confusion. A target popped up and Mendez engaged it, but without proper coverage, his angle was wrong. The red laser designated a miss. Civilian hit. Civilian casualty! Kowalski's voice boomed over the loudspeaker. Cease fire! Cease fire! The exercise ended. Lena finally moved, stumbling forward into the structure on legs that felt like rubber. Mendez ripped his helmet off, face flushed with fury. What the hell, Ward? You froze. Again, you got us smoked. Mendez jabbed a finger at her chest. You got a civilian killed because you couldn't do your goddamn job. Stand down, Mendez, Kowalski ordered, stepping between them. But his eyes on Lena were cold, disappointed. Torres shook his head. This is ridiculous. She's a liability. They walked past her, leaving her standing alone in the doorway where she'd frozen. Again. Hicks lingered, looking uncomfortable. Hey, you okay? I'm fine, Lena lied. Yeah, okay, well, see you at debrief. Lena waited until they were all gone before she allowed herself to lean against the wall, sliding down until she sat on the concrete, head in her hands. What's wrong with you? She screamed internally. Why can't you just move? But there was no answer, just the echo of failure and the certainty that she was running out of chances. That night, Lena sat on her bunk with a notebook open on her lap, trying to write a letter to her sister. She'd started it 3 times and thrown away 2 drafts. The words wouldn't come. Dear Sarah, things are difficult. She crossed it out. Dear Sarah, I'm not sure I'm going to make it through this program. Crossed out. Dear Sarah, I think I'm broken and I don't know how to fix it. She stared at the words for a long time, then slowly closed the notebook. Across the barracks, some of the other students were playing cards, laughing at something on someone's phone. Normal, relaxed. Lena felt like she was watching them through glass. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Your final evaluation is Friday at 0900. Be ready. This is your last chance. No signature, didn't need one. The message was clear. Lena set the phone aside and lay back on her bunk, staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. It never did anymore. Thursday morning. Live fire movement drills. The range was set up with multiple stations requiring shooters to engage targets while moving, kneeling, transitioning between positions. Dynamic, fluid, the kind of shooting that required confidence and instinct. Lena had neither. Ward, you're up, Pike called. She moved to the start line, loaded magazine, chamber check, safety on. The timer beeped. She moved. First target, center mass, 2 rounds. She hit 1. Missed 1. Second target, transition while moving. Both rounds went wide. Third target, kneeling position. She dropped too slow, rifle wobbling, rounds scattered across the target's shoulders instead of center mass. By the time she finished, her score was barely passing. Again. Mendez went next and absolutely crushed it. Every round center mass, smooth transitions, confident movement. The difference was humiliating. During the lunch break, Lena sat alone at a table in the chow hall, forcing down food she couldn't taste. Lieutenant Vance approached and sat across from her. Ward, we need to talk. Yes, sir. Vance folded his hands on the table. Tomorrow's evaluation is your last chance. You understand that, right? Yes, sir. I've reviewed your file, your previous evaluations, your service record. On paper, you should be excelling here, but you're not. He paused. Is there something going on I should know about? Medical issue? Personal problem? Lena shook her head. No, sir. Just working through some rust. Rust doesn't explain freezing in doorways, Ward. Rust doesn't explain a senior NCO performing like a brand new private. His voice wasn't unkind, but it was firm. If there's something preventing you from performing your duties, I need to know. Now. She wanted to tell him, wanted to explain that there was something inside her locked away, something she couldn't reach anymore, something that used to make her exceptional and now just left her hollowed out and useless. But the words wouldn't come. I'll be ready tomorrow, sir. Vance studied her for a long moment, then sighed. I hope so, Ward, I really do. He left. Lena pushed her tray away, appetite gone. That afternoon, during a rare free period, Lena went for a run. She needed to move, needed to feel like her body still worked the way it was supposed to. The perimeter road around Iron Ridge was a 5-mile loop through scrub desert. She ran it hard, punishing herself, lungs burning, legs aching. Physical pain was simple. Physical pain made sense. She was halfway through her second lap when she noticed the vehicle, a black SUV, government plates, parked near the admin building. Dark windows. Engine off. It hadn't been there when she started running. Lena slowed to a walk, breathing hard, watching the vehicle from a distance. Nothing happened. No one got out. It just sat there, silent and ominous. Weird, she thought. But there were always weird vehicles around military installations. Probably some brass doing an inspection or a contractor meeting. She finished her run and headed back to the barracks, the SUV already forgotten. Evening formation. Kowalski addressed the class with his usual gruff demeanor. Tomorrow is final evaluation day. You'll be running a combined exercise, marksmanship, CQB, medical, and tactical decision-making under pressure, pass/fail, no retakes. He scanned the assembled students. Some of you are on the bubble. You know who you are. Tonight, get your gear squared away, get some sleep, and show up ready to perform. The class dispersed. Lena cleaned her rifle for the fourth time that day, checked and rechecked her gear, laid out her uniform. Everything perfect. Everything ready. Everything except her. She sat on her bunk as twilight fell, hands clasped between her knees, trying to quiet the storm in her head. You can do this. You've done harder things. You've survived worse. But the words felt hollow, empty reassurances from a person she used to be. A knock on the doorframe. She looked up. Master Sergeant Pike stood there, expression serious. Ward, come with me. Come. Where? Now. She followed him out of the barracks, across the darkening compound. He led her to a small office building she'd never been inside before. They entered a conference room, and Lena's world stopped. Sitting at the table was Commander Nathan Cross. She hadn't seen him in 3 years, not since the day everything went to hell, not since the blast, not since they'd locked her away and told her she was done. He looked exactly the same, calm, composed, eyes that missed nothing. Hello, Lena, Cross said quietly. Her mouth went dry. Commander? Sit. She sat. Pike closed the door and stood against it, arms crossed. Cross folded his hands on the table. I've been monitoring your progress here, or lack thereof. Lena said nothing. Your instructors think you're washed up, broken, a liability. Cross tilted his head slightly. Are you? I don't know, sir. Yes, you do. The certainty in his voice made her look up sharply. Cross leaned forward. Do you remember what we did to you, Lena, after the blast? Her hands clenched in her lap. I remember waking up in a hospital. I remember you telling me I was done, that it was over. We told you it was over because it had to be over, because what we'd done to you, what you agreed to, required controls, safeguards. He paused. You're not broken, Lena. You're locked, deliberately, and tomorrow I'm going to give you the key. Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. I don't understand. Yes, you do. You just don't remember the protocol. Cross stood. Tomorrow, during your final evaluation, I'll be there to observe. When the time is right, I'll give you 2 words, a verbal authorization code. And when I do, everything we built into you will come back online. Why? Lena whispered. Why now? Because we need you. Because the world's gotten darker, and people like you are rare. And because watching you suffer like this, when I know what you're capable of, is unconscionable. Cross walked to his door, then paused. Get some sleep, Staff Sergeant. Tomorrow, you're going to remind everyone who you really are. He left. Lena sat frozen, mind reeling. Pike cleared his throat. I don't know what that was about, and I don't want to know. But whatever happens tomorrow, don't make me regret keeping you in this program. Master Sergeant, what did he mean? What did they do to me? Pike's expression was unreadable. Above my pay grade, Ward. Way above. All I know is Commander Cross doesn't make trips like this for people who don't matter. He left her alone in the conference room. Lena sat in the silence, fragments of memory flickering at the edges of her consciousness. Classified training, conditioning protocols, verbal authorization codes designed to unlock capabilities that were too dangerous to leave accessible all the time. She remembered now, or started to. And for the first time in months, something like hope flickered in her chest. Friday morning. 0830 hours. Class Echo 9 assembled on the range in full combat gear. The air was already hot, the sun climbing above the desert hills. Instructors moved through final equipment checks. Nerves were visible on every face. Lena stood at the end of the line, calm in a way she hadn't been in weeks. Whatever was coming, she was ready. Or she would be. Lieutenant Vance addressed the class. Today's evaluation is comprehensive. You'll begin with a qualification course, rifle and pistol. Then you'll move to the shoot house for CQB. Finally, you'll execute a scenario-based exercise incorporating everything you've learned. Medics are standing by. Safety officers are in position. This is it. Show us what you've got. The class broke into rotation groups. Lena was in the 3rd group, CQB first, then marksmanship, then scenario. As they moved toward the shoot house, she noticed the black SUV parked near the observation tower. Commander Cross stood beside it, watching. Her heart rate kicked up, but not from fear, from anticipation. Echo 4, you're up, Kowalski announced. Ward, Mendez, Torres, Hicks, this is your final run. Make it count. They stacked up outside the shoot house. Lena took her position, number 3 again. Her rifle felt different in her hands now, balanced, right. Mendez glanced back at her. You good? Yeah, Lena said quietly. I'm good. He didn't look convinced. The door stood before them. Beyond it, chaos, noise, pressure. Everything that had broken her before. Mendez raised his hand, fingers counted down. 3, 2, 1. Torres yanked the door open. Mendez tossed the flashbang. Crack bang! Lena's body tensed, her vision tunneled. The noise hit like a physical blow. She felt the freeze coming, that terrible paralysis creeping up from her legs. And then she heard it, 2 words, clear and calm over the din. From somewhere behind her, Commander Nathan Cross spoke. Silent edge. Execute. The world shifted. Like a dam breaking, like shackles falling away, like waking up from a dream where she'd been buried alive. Lena moved. Not fast. Inevitable. Her rifle came up as she flowed through the doorway, sight picture already acquired before her conscious mind registered the target. 2 rounds. Center mass. Threat down. Pivot. Corner. Angle solved in motion, weapon tracking, breathing controlled, heart rate dropping into operational calm. Contact left! Mendez's voice, but she was already there, rounds impacting before he finished speaking. She moved through the structure like water finding cracks, every angle anticipated, every threat assessed and neutralized in fractions of seconds that felt like whole minutes of crystal clarity. The chaos wasn't chaos anymore. It was data, clean and categorized, processed by something deeper than thought. A door. She cleared it. A hallway. She owned it. A corner. She was already around it before the target appeared. Torres and Mendez scrambled to keep up, suddenly passengers in an operation they no longer controlled. Holy shit, Hicks breathed over comms. Lena said nothing. Didn't need to. Her rifle spoke for her. Controlled pairs, surgical precision, 0 wasted movement. Final room, hostage secured behind simulated furniture. 2 hostiles, bad angles. Mendez hesitated. Lena didn't. She moved left, drawing fire, creating the angle Torres needed. He took it. Both threats neutralized. Clear! 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 Hostage secure! Silence. Just the ringing echo of training rounds and the hammering of hearts. 10 minutes. That's all it had taken. Outside, the success tone sounded. Long, loud, final. They emerged from the shoot house into brilliant desert sunlight. Helmets came off. Faces were pale, shocked. Mendez stared at Lena like he'd never seen her before. What the hell was that? Lena safed her weapon, pulse already returning to baseline calm, like nothing extraordinary had happened. Like this was just who she was. That, Master Sergeant Pike said slowly, studying the digital scoreboard where a new course record now glowed, was a staff sergeant remembering how to do her job. Across the range, Commander Nathan Cross climbed back into the black SUV. He didn't smile, didn't wave, just gave a single nod, and drove away. Lena stood in the desert sun, surrounded by teammates who suddenly looked at her very differently and felt whole again. Finally, the silence lasted exactly 4 seconds. Then chaos erupted. Did you see that? Torres grabbed Mendez's shoulder, voice pitched high with adrenaline. Did you see that? Mendez didn't answer. He was still staring at Lena, helmet dangling from one hand, face slack with something between awe and disbelief. Hicks laughed, a sharp, nervous sound. We just set a course record. Holy shit, we just... At ease! Kowalski's bark cut through the noise. The students fell silent, but the energy crackling through the air didn't dissipate. It hung there, thick and electric, as the gunny strode toward them with Pike at his shoulder. Both instructors looked like they'd just witnessed something that violated the laws of physics. Kowalski stopped in front of Lena, studied her. His jaw worked like he was chewing words he couldn't quite find. Ward, he finally said. What the hell was that? Lena met his eyes, perfectly calm. Successful hostage rescue, gunnery sergeant. 0 casualties. All threats neutralized. I can read the goddamn scoreboard. Kowalski's voice dropped lower. I want to know what changed. Nothing changed. I executed the mission. You've been washing out of every drill for 2 weeks, and now suddenly... He gestured toward the shoot house, searching for words. Suddenly you're running the course like you wrote the damn manual. Lena said nothing. Pike stepped forward. Let it go, Gunny. Let it go? Kowalski turned on him. Master Sergeant, we just watched a soldier who couldn't clear a doorway without freezing turn into what she was always supposed to be, Pike finished quietly. His eyes found Lena's, held them. Some questions don't need answers, not from us. The weight of that statement settled over the group. Torres shifted uncomfortably. Mendez finally found his voice. So, we passed, right? Kowalski blinked, seeming to remember there were other students present. You passed, all of you. Record time, perfect execution. He paused. Ward carried you. Mendez opened his mouth, probably to protest, then closed it. Because it was true. They'd all felt it in there. The sudden shift from a team exercise to following in someone's wake, struggling to keep up with a tempo they couldn't match. Gear up for the next rotation, Pike ordered. Rifle qual in 20 mics. Move. The team dispersed, but Lena could feel their eyes on her as they walked away. Hear their whispers starting up again, different now. Not mocking. Wary. She stood alone on the range, the Arizona sun beating down, and for the first time in months felt like she could breathe. The door was open again, the lock was broken. And everything that had been sealed away behind walls of protocol and medical necessity was flooding back into her like water into a drowning ship. Except she wasn't drowning. She was floating. Ward, Pike's voice pulled her back. He'd waited until the others were out of earshot. You good? Yes, Master Sergeant. The commander, Cross. He say anything to you before the run? Lena chose her words carefully. He told me to remember who I was. Pike nodded slowly, like that confirmed something he'd suspected. And do you? Remember? I'm starting to. Is it going to be a problem? No, Master Sergeant. He studied her for a long moment. See that it doesn't. Whatever you are, whatever you were, right now, you're a staff sergeant trying to complete this course. Focus on that. Roger. Pike walked away, leaving her alone with her thoughts and the distant sound of other teams running their drills. Lena looked down at her hands. Steady. Completely steady. She made a fist, released it, made it again. The tremor that had haunted her for months was gone. Not suppressed. Gone. She whispered 2 words into the desert air, testing them. Silent edge. The phrase tasted familiar, right, like coming home after years away. Something deep in her neural pathways recognized it, responded to it, a key turning in a lock she'd forgotten existed. She remembered the conditioning now, remembered the months of training in facilities that didn't officially exist, with instructors who had no names and objectives that were never written down. Remembered the psychological architecture they'd built into her mind, partitions and protocols and triggers designed to make her a weapon that could be safely stored and deployed as needed. The blast had scrambled it all, damaged the mechanisms, left her locked in the safe mode, unable to access the capabilities that had made her valuable in the first place, until Commander Cross spoke those 2 words and flipped the switch. Ward! You're up! Kowalski's shout carried across the range. Rifle qualification. Right. Lena jogged to the firing line, fell in with her group. Mendez edged away slightly, like she might be radioactive. Torres wouldn't meet her eyes. Only Hicks seemed normal. He leaned over, voice low. Hey, that was insane back there. I mean, really, you were like, focus on your own qual, Hicks. Right, yeah. Sorry. The rangemaster called them to the line. Lena loaded her magazine, performed her chamber check, took her position. The target's downrange looked closer than before. Clearer. Shooters ready? The rangemaster called. Stand by. Fire. Lena's first shot broke clean. Center mass. Second shot. Same hole. Third. Fourth. The rifle felt like an extension of her body, each shot a natural continuation of breath and intent. 20 rounds, 20 hits, dead center. She cleared her weapon, stepped back, looked at the scoreboard. Ward. 300 over 300. Perfect score. Around her, the other shooters were still engaging targets. Missing, correcting, struggling. Normal. Kowalski appeared at her shoulder. When's the last time you shot a perfect qual, Ward? 3 years ago, Gunnery Sergeant. Uh-huh. He crossed his arms. And what happened 3 years ago? Lena ejected her magazine, brass clinking into her dump pouch. I got hurt. Took some time to recover. Must have been some injury. It was. And now you're better. Yes, Gunnery Sergeant. Kowalski's eyes narrowed. We're going to have a conversation later, you and me, about what the hell is really going on. Looking forward to it, Gunnery Sergeant. He walked away, shaking his head. The rest of the qualification cycle passed in a blur. Pistol qualification, perfect score. Combat medical scenario, flawless execution. Tactical decision exercise. She solved problems before the instructors finished presenting them, seeing 3 moves ahead, anticipating cascading consequences with a clarity that felt almost precognitive. By 1400 hours, Echo 4 had finished all their rotations. Top scores across the board. Lena's name was at the top of every list. The other students gathered in small groups. Voices low, glances frequent. Lena sat alone on a bench near the armory, cleaning her rifle for what felt like the 100th time. The familiar ritual was soothing, predictable. Footsteps approached. She looked up. Lieutenant Vance stood there, tablet in hand, expression unreadable. Staff Sergeant Ward. Sir. She started to stand. As you were. Vance sat beside her, setting the tablet on the bench between them. I've been reviewing your scores from today. Lena said nothing. They're exceptional. Across the board. Perfect in multiple categories. He paused. Which raises questions. Sir? 2 weeks ago, you couldn't qual on your rifle. Today, you shot a perfect score. Yesterday, you froze in doorways. Today, you set a course record in CQB. Vance's voice was measured, professional, but there was an edge to it. I'm trying to understand what changed. Lena met his eyes. I had a breakthrough, sir. What kind of breakthrough? The kind where I stopped fighting myself and started trusting my training. It wasn't a lie, just incomplete. Vance studied her. Commander Cross, the man who observed your final CQB run. You know him. It wasn't a question. We've met, sir. In what capacity? I'm not at liberty to discuss my previous duty assignments, sir. Even with your current chain of command? Especially with my current chain of command. Lena kept her voice respectful but firm. Those assignments are classified above your clearance level, Lieutenant. No disrespect intended. Vance's jaw tightened. This puts me in a difficult position, Staff Sergeant. How so, sir? Because I'm responsible for the soldiers in this course, for their safety, their training, their welfare, and right now I have a soldier whose capabilities apparently shift dramatically depending on what? A code word? A psychological trigger? He leaned forward. That concerns me. That concerns me a great deal. Lena understood his position. In his shoes, she'd be concerned too. A soldier who could flip between barely competent and exceptional wasn't just unusual, it was potentially dangerous. I'm not a threat to anyone here, sir. Can you guarantee that? Could she? Lena examined the question honestly. The conditioning was designed with safeguards, protocols, rules of engagement hardwired into her at a level deeper than conscious thought. She couldn't hurt friendlies even if she wanted to. The architecture prevented it. Probably. 3 years was a long time, and the blast had scrambled things. I believe so, sir. Vance didn't look reassured. He picked up his tablet, scrolled through something. I'm going to need to make some calls, talk to some people, figure out what exactly I'm dealing with here. I understand, sir. In the meantime, you're confined to base. No off-duty privileges until further notice. Yes, sir. Dismissed. Lena stood, gathered her rifle, walked away. She could feel Vance's eyes on her back, calculating, assessing, trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Good luck with that, Lieutenant. The barracks were mostly empty, students either still running drills or hitting the chow hall early. Lena had the place to herself. She sat on her bunk, pulled out her phone. 3 missed calls. All from the same number, no voicemail. She didn't recognize the number, but instinct told her who it was. She called back. 2 rings. Then, Lena. Commander Cross's voice, calm, expected. Sir. How are you feeling? Operational, sir. A pause. Any adverse effects? Headaches, disorientation, memory gaps? No, sir. Everything's clear. Clearer than it's been in years. Good. The reintegration protocol worked as designed then. Lena stood, moved to the window, watched the compound's activity through dusty glass. What happens now? Now you complete your training, graduate this course, return to normal duty status. That's it? For now. Cross's tone shifted slightly. We're monitoring the situation in several theaters. Assets like you may be needed again, but not yet, not today. And if I'm needed tomorrow, then we'll call, and you'll answer. Lena closed her eyes. Part of her had hoped, what? That Cross would say she was done? That the door he'd opened could be closed again? That she could go back to being a normal soldier? No. That ship had sailed 3 years ago when she'd volunteered for something she barely understood, chasing capability and purpose, and the chance to make a difference in places that didn't make the news. Understood, sir. One more thing, Lena. Your current chain of command is going to start asking questions. They'll make calls. Most of those calls will hit walls, but some might get through to people who can tell them things. A pause. Don't help them. Don't volunteer information. Your classification level hasn't changed. What if they order me to explain? Then you politely refuse and cite operational security. If they push, you request legal counsel. This goes above them, and they need to understand that. That's going to make my life difficult, sir. Being exceptional always does. Cross's voice softened almost imperceptibly. You did good work today, Lena. Reminded a lot of people, including yourself, what you're capable of. Be proud of that. The line went dead. Lena lowered the phone, stared at her reflection in the window glass. The woman looking back was familiar but strange, like meeting an old friend who'd been away for years. Behind her, the barracks door banged open. Torres and Mendez walked in, conversation dying the moment they saw her. Oh, hey, Ward. Torres's discomfort was palpable. Torres, Mendez. Awkward silence. Mendez busied himself with his wall locker. Torres stood frozen, clearly wanting to say something but not knowing how. Finally, that thing you did today, in the shoot house, that was, I've never seen anything like that. Lena turned from the window. You executed your part of the mission well. I executed my part? Torres laughed, high and nervous. Ward, you were the mission. We were just along for the ride. Team effort. Bullshit. Mendez spoke without looking at her, hands moving mechanically through his post-op weapons maintenance. You cleared that structure like you had X-ray vision and a crystal ball. You were shooting threats before they appeared, moving through angles like you'd memorized the architect's blueprints. Good training, good instincts. Nobody's instincts are that good. Mendez finally turned to face her. What are you, Ward? Really? Lena held his gaze. I'm a staff sergeant trying to graduate this course. Same as you. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. The tension stretched. Mendez looked like he wanted to push, but something in Lena's expression made him reconsider. He went back to his rifle maintenance, shaking his head. Torres cleared his throat. Look, I just wanted to say, some of the stuff we said before, about you being washed up or whatever, that was forgotten, Lena interrupted. We're good, Torres. Yeah? Yeah. He nodded, relieved, and headed for the showers. Mendez waited until he was gone, then spoke without looking up from his work. You scare me now, you know that? I'm not here to hurt anyone. That's not what I mean. He set down his boar brush, finally met her eyes. I've been doing this for 8 years. Infantry, 2 deployments, plenty of hot contacts. I've seen good soldiers, seen great soldiers. Hell, I've seen operators from Tier 1 units who moved like they were born with rifles in their hands. He paused. You move different, like you're not reacting to things, like you already know what's going to happen and you're just executing the steps. Lena said nothing. That's not natural, Ward. That's not training. That's something else. You volunteering for a psych eval, Mendez? Because you're starting to sound paranoid. Maybe I am. He stood, gathered his cleaning kit. Or maybe I'm just smart enough to recognize when someone in my unit is operating on a completely different level than the rest of us, and smart enough to be worried about what that means. He left. Lena sat alone in the barracks, surrounded by the detritus of military life. Wall lockers, foot lockers, bunks arranged in perfect rows. Everything ordered, everything in its place. Everything except her. That night, Lieutenant Vance called an emergency formation. Class Echo 9 assembled outside the admin building at 2000 hours, confusion evident on every face. Evening formations weren't standard. Emergency formations were reserved for serious situations. Vance appeared with Master Sergeant Pike and Gunnery Sergeant Kowalski flanking him. All three looked grim. At ease, Vance said. The students relaxed fractionally. I'm going to be direct. This afternoon I made several calls to higher headquarters regarding certain irregularities in today's evaluations. Lena's stomach tightened. Those calls were unproductive. I was told repeatedly that certain information is classified and unavailable to me despite my position as Course OIC. Vance's frustration was barely contained. What I was told is that all students in Class Echo 9 are cleared to continue training and that no security concerns have been identified. Relief rippled through the formation, except for Lena, who heard the unspoken tension in Vance's voice. However, Vance continued, I was also informed that one member of this class has a service record that includes classified duty assignments I am not authorized to know about. Assignments that apparently resulted in capabilities beyond standard infantry training. Every eye turned toward Lena. She stood at attention, face neutral, heart rate steady. I don't like having soldiers in my command whose backgrounds I can't verify, Vance said flatly. I don't like operating in the dark, but I've been ordered to proceed with training and evaluation as normal. He paused. So that's what we're going to do. Starting Monday, we begin the advanced phase of this course. Longer exercises, more complex scenarios, higher expectations. Kowalski stepped forward. For those of you who struggled in the basic phase, his eyes flicked toward Lena, or who showed dramatic improvement in your final evaluations, understand this. We'll be watching closely. Consistency matters. One good day doesn't make you a graduate. Questions? Vance asked. Silence. Dismissed. The formation broke. Students dispersed toward the barracks, voices low and speculative. Lena started to follow, but Pike's hand on her shoulder stopped her. Hold up, Ward. She turned. Pike, Kowalski, and Vance stood in a loose semicircle, expressions varying degrees of unhappy. Walk with us, Vance said. It wasn't a request. They led her away from the barracks toward the dark expanse of the ranges. Far enough from ears. Far enough for honesty. Vance spoke first. I'm going to ask you a direct question, Staff Sergeant, and I expect a direct answer. Are you a danger to anyone in this class? No, sir. Are you psychologically stable? Yes, sir. Are you under any kind of influence, pharmaceutical, technological, or otherwise, that affects your judgment or behavior? No, sir. Vance studied her, then explained to me how a soldier who failed basic marksmanship for 2 weeks suddenly shoots a perfect qual. I can't, sir. Not without violating classification protocols. Try. Lena chose her words carefully. I was injured in the line of duty 3 years ago. The injury had lasting effects. Effects that were recently addressed through appropriate medical channels. I'm now operating at my normal capability level. What kind of injury causes someone to forget how to shoot? A traumatic brain injury, sir, with complications. That much was true. The blast had caused TBI. The complications were just more exotic than standard medical literature covered. Kowalski jumped in. And this Commander Cross? He just happened to show up on your evaluation day? He was notified of my training status by the medical team that treated me, Gunnery Sergeant. He came to observe my recovery progress. That's an awfully convenient coincidence. It's the truth, Gunnery Sergeant. Pike had been quiet, watching the exchange. Now he spoke. Let me ask a different question. Whatever you are, whatever you can you control it? Yes, Master Sergeant. Under all circumstances. Lena hesitated. That was the real question, wasn't it? The safeguards were designed well, but safeguards could fail. Conditioning could degrade. She'd gone 3 years with the system offline. Who knew what might have changed? I believe so, Master Sergeant. That's not a yes. It's the most honest answer I can give you. The 3 instructors exchanged glances. Some silent communication passed between them. Finally, Vance sighed. All right, here's how this is going to work. You continue training. You perform to standard, not above, not below. Standard. You don't show off. You don't stand out more than you already have. And if at any point I get even a hint that you're a risk to yourself or others, I'm pulling you from this course regardless of what any commander says. Clear? Crystal, sir? Good. Get back to the barracks. And Ward? Sir? Whatever you're hiding, and we all know you're hiding something, I will figure it out eventually. I'm sure you'll try, sir. She walked back across the darkened compound, aware of the eyes watching her from the admin building. Above, stars wheeled in vast desert silence. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called. Lena felt the weight of secrets pressing down on her shoulders. The weight of being different, being dangerous, being useful in ways that made normal people uncomfortable. She'd wanted this capability back, begged for it, in her darkest moments, when failure seemed inevitable and the shadow of who she used to be felt like phantom limbs. Now she had it, and everyone was terrified. The weekend passed in tense quiet. Students kept their distance from Lena, polite but wary, like approaching a sleeping dog that might be friendly or might bite. She spent most of her time alone, running, reading, maintaining her gear. Saturday afternoon, Chen worked up the courage to approach her at the pull-up bars. Hey, Ward. Got a minute? Lena dropped from the bar, wiped sweat from her face. What's up? Chen shifted his weight, uncomfortable. Some of us were talking about what happened Friday. And we were wondering, if you don't mind sharing, he struggled for words. How did you do it? How did you just flip a switch like that? Lena considered how to answer. These were her classmates, her peers. They deserved something. I spent a long time forgetting who I was, she said slowly. Someone reminded me, that's all. That's not all. That was like watching 2 completely different people. Maybe I'm just good at compartmentalizing. Chen laughed nervously. That's an understatement. He paused. Look, I know you can't talk about your past. I get it. Classified, need to know, all that. But are you going to be okay? Going forward? The question surprised her. Not the content, the genuine concern in his voice. I think so, Lena said. Why? Because you look tired, Ward. Like, really tired. And not just physically. Chen met her eyes. I've seen guys come back from deployment carrying stuff they can't talk about, stuff that sits on them. You've got that look. Lena felt something shift in her chest. When was the last time someone had asked if she was okay and actually meant it? I appreciate that, Chen. Really. I'm handling it. Yeah, well, if you need to talk or don't talk or just, I don't know, I'm around. Thanks. He nodded and walked away. Lena stood alone in the fading sunlight, surprised by the small kindness. In a world where she'd become an object of fear and speculation, someone had seen past the mystery to the person underneath. It helped, more than Chen probably knew. Monday morning. Advanced phase. The class assembled at 600 for their briefing. Pike stood at the front, expression carved from granite. Welcome to the fun part, he said without humor. For the next 4 weeks, you'll be executing increasingly complex operations, multi-day field exercises, limited sleep, limited food, maximum stress. The basic phase tested your individual skills. This phase tests your ability to maintain those skills when you're cold, tired, hungry, and getting shot at. A map appeared on the projector behind him. topographical lines showing desert hills and dry creek beds. First exercise, 72-hour field op. You'll insert via foot march, establish a patrol base, conduct reconnaissance on a simulated enemy position, plan and execute a raid, then extract. You'll be carrying everything you need on your backs. No resupply. Instructors will be playing enemy force. Torres raised his hand. Rules of engagement? Simulated, training rounds only. But understand this, we will be trying to kill you, figuratively. If you get shot, you're out of the exercise. You fail. Lena listened, mind already running calculations. 72 hours. Foot march plus operation. Figure 8 to 10 miles in. Establish security. Plan for 12 hours. Execute at night. Extract. Sleep would be minimal. Food would be rationed. Every decision would matter. This was her element. Load plans are posted outside. You've got 6 hours to prep your gear. Brief back at 1300. Movement begins at 1800. Pike scanned the class. Questions? Hicks. Weather forecast? Hot during the day, cold at night. Prepare accordingly. Chen. Enemy force strength? Unknown. You'll find out when you see them, or when they see you. No more questions. Get to work. The class dispersed into organized chaos. Lena moved methodically through her preparation, sorting ammunition, packing rations, checking water purification, arranging gear for weight distribution. Around her, others did the same. The barracks filled with the rustle of equipment and low conversation. Mendez worked at the bunk next to hers. After a while, he spoke without looking up. You've done this before. Real world. Statement, not question. Maybe. How many times? Lena paused in her packing. Enough to know what mistakes to avoid. Like what? She considered whether to share, decided it couldn't hurt. Overpacking. Most people bring too much. Weight slows you down, wears you out, makes noise. Bring what you need, not what makes you comfortable. Mendez looked at his growing pile of gear. How do you know what you need? Experience. But for this exercise, ammunition, water, mission essentials, everything else is luxury. He nodded slowly, started removing items from his pack. Around them, others were listening. Chen moved closer. What else? Lena set down her packing. Fine. They wanted lessons, she'd give them. Sleep in shifts. Never let everyone rest at once. Designate sectors of fire before you need them. Test your comms before you move. Tape down anything that rattles. Check your buddy's gear, not just your own. She paused. And most important, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Don't rush. Plan your work. Work your plan. Torres wandered over. Sounds like you've been paying attention to the lessons. Something like that. Or, Mendez said quietly, sounds like you've actually done this somewhere we can't ask about. Lena met his eyes. Take the advice or don't, Mendez. Your call. He held her gaze for a moment, then nodded. I'll take it. The afternoon passed in focused preparation. At 1300, the class reassembled for briefbacks. Each four-person team presented their movement plan, patrol base layout, reconnaissance approach, and raid concept. Echo 4 went last. Mendez presented. He was technically team leader for this rotation, but Lena could see him incorporating suggestions she'd made during planning. The brief was solid, professional, realistic. Pike nodded approval. Good plan. Conservative where it needs to be, aggressive where it counts. Questions from the cadre? Kowalski. Ward, you've been quiet during this brief. You agree with this plan? Yes, Gunnery Sergeant. Any modifications you'd recommend? Everyone turned to look at her. Lena could feel the weight of their attention. The infiltration route could be tightened up. We're planning for a wide approach to avoid detection, but that adds distance and time. I'd recommend a more direct route using terrain masking. There's a wash system that runs almost to the objective. Harder navigation, but better concealment. Pike pulled up the map, traced the wash system. That's narrow. One person wide in places. If you get caught in there, you're trapped. Yes, Master Sergeant, but the likelihood of enemy positions in the wash is low. They'll be on the high ground watching the obvious approaches. Bold assumption. Calculated risk based on standard defensive doctrine. Kowalski and Pike exchanged glances. Pike nodded. Interesting. Mendez, you want to modify your plan? Mendez looked at Lena, then at the map. Yeah, we'll take the wash. Your call. It'll be your ass if it goes wrong. The briefbacks concluded. The class had 3 hours before movement. Lena used the time for final prep and mental rehearsal, walking through the operation in her mind, anticipating decision points and contingencies. At 1745, Echo 4 assembled at the departure point. Full combat loads, weapons, ammunition, water, mission gear. Everything checked, double-checked, inspected by cadre. Pike approached Lena while she was doing a final equipment shakedown. You're taking point, I assume, he said quietly. Mendez is team leader, Master Sergeant. Mendez is team leader on paper. We both know who's really running this show. Lena adjusted her pack straps. He's making good decisions. I'm just providing input. Uh-huh? Pike crossed his arms. Let me tell you something, Ward. Leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about making your team better. Mendez is a solid NCO. Don't undermine him by being too good. The observation caught Lena off guard. I'm not trying to... I know. But there's a difference between helping and taking over. Find the balance. He walked away before she could respond. At 1800 hours exactly, Class Echo 9 began their movement. 4 teams, 4 different routes, same objective. Only one team would successfully complete the full mission profile. Lena shouldered her pack and followed Mendez into the desert as the sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Somewhere out there, instructors waited in ambush positions. Somewhere out there, the real test was beginning, and for the first time in 3 years, Lena felt ready for it. They moved in tactical column through the desert scrub, spacing between each person, weapons ready, senses heightened. Mendez on point, Torres at 2, Lena at 3, Hicks pulling rear security, standard patrol formation. The temperature dropped as the sun set, desert heat bleeding away into the clear sky. By 2000 hours, Lena could see her breath. Around them, the landscape transformed into shadow and silver moonlight. 2 hours in, Mendez halted. Hand signal, freeze. The team dropped to a knee, pulling security in all directions. Lena's rifle tracked across her sector, finger indexed alongside the trigger guard, breathing controlled. Mendez moved back down the column to Lena. Wash systems ahead, he whispered. Looks narrow, can't see the bottom from here. Expected. We'll move single file, 5-meter spacing. Stop every 50 meters. Listen. What are we listening for? Ambush. If cadre's smart, they'll have someone in the high ground watching this approach. Mendez nodded, moved back to point position. The team reformed and descended into the wash. The walls rose on either side, rock and compressed sand, barely shoulder width in places. Darkness pooled at the bottom. Lena's night vision picked up details in shades of green, scattered rocks, desert plants, the occasional animal track. They moved slowly, carefully, weapons oriented up toward the rim. Every sound was amplified, boots on sand, equipment shifting, breathing. 50 meters. Stop. Listen. Nothing but wind and the distant yip of coyotes. Another 50 meters. Stop. Listen. Still nothing. Lena felt her awareness expand, that familiar state of heightened perception settling over her like a second skin. Every shadow was catalogued, every sound identified and dismissed or flagged as potential threat. This was what she'd missed, this clarity, this sense of operating at full capacity, mind and body synchronized in perfect harmony. They'd been in the wash for 20 minutes when Lena heard it, a sound that didn't belong. Metal on metal, soft, brief. She froze. Hand signal, danger. The team halted instantly, melting into whatever shadows they could find. Lena strained her ears. There. Again. Someone shifting position, equipment clinking. Above them. On the rim. She caught Mendez's eye, pointed up and to the left. He nodded, understanding immediately. They had 2 choices. Push through and hope the observer didn't see them, or back out and find another route. Mendez looked at Lena, question in his eyes. Your call. Lena considered. The observer was poorly positioned, too far from the wash bottom to see into it clearly. They were already past his likely field of view, and backing out would cost time they couldn't afford. She signaled, "Continue, slow, quiet." They moved like ghosts through the wash, each step deliberate, each breath controlled. The sound of the observer faded behind them. 10 minutes later, they emerged from the wash system within 500 meters of the objective area. Mendez raised a fist. "Halt." The team took a knee in the concealment of a dry creek bed. "We made it," Torres breathed, relief evident even in a whisper. "That's the easy part," Lena replied. "Now we have to find them without them finding us." They established a temporary security position and began the careful work of reconnaissance, identifying enemy positions, counting personnel, mapping patrol patterns. It would take hours. And somewhere in the darkness, the instructors were hunting. The reconnaissance took 3 hours. 3 hours of crawling through the desert on their stomachs, using night vision to peer through sparse vegetation at the simulated enemy compound 200 meters distant. 3 hours of whispered observations, sketch maps drawn in dim red light, patrol patterns timed and logged. Lena watched it all through her scope, counting personnel, identifying weapons positions, mapping fields of fire. The instructors had set up a proper defensive perimeter, bunkers at the corners, roving patrols, interlocking sectors. Professional. Realistic. Exactly the kind of problem she'd been trained to solve. Mendez crawled back from his observation position, settling beside her in the shallow depression they'd claimed as their hide site. "I count 8 instructors," he whispered, "maybe more inside the central building." 10, Lena corrected quietly. 2 more in the tower. They're staying low, but I caught movement. Mendez squinted through his own optic. "I don't see them." "Northeast corner, watch the shadow line. They shift every 4 minutes." He watched, waited, then nodded slowly. "Yeah, okay, I see it now." Torres crawled over, sketch map complete. Patrol patterns predictable. 7-minute cycle. Gap in coverage on the south wall for about 90 seconds each rotation. "That's our entry point," Mendez said. "We time it right. We can breach before they know we're there." Lena studied the compound through her scope, mind running calculations. Something felt wrong. Too easy. The instructors were good. They wouldn't leave an obvious gap unless they wanted it found. "It's a trap," she said quietly. "What?" "The south wall gap. They want us to use it. Probably have a reactive squad staged inside, ready to hit us the moment we commit." Mendez frowned. "How do you know?" "Because that's what I do. Make the obvious approach look viable, then crush anyone stupid enough to take it." Lena shifted her position slightly, scanning other sectors. "The real entry point is here." She pointed to the eastern wall, where the patrol pattern actually overlaps. "Looks harder, but gives us better control." Torres shook his head. "That's a longer approach. More exposure." "For 30 seconds. Then we're inside their decision loop, and they're reacting instead of executing." Mendez studied the compound, then looked at Lena. "You're sure?" "No, but I'm confident." "That's not reassuring, Ward." "War rarely is, Mendez." He was quiet for a moment, weighing options. This was his call, his plan, his responsibility as team leader. Finally, "We'll do it your way. East wall entry. Torres, modify the sketch. Hicks." He turned to their 4th man. "Prep the breaching charge. We execute in 1 hour. That gives us time to reposition and for everyone to get some rest before we move." The team dispersed to their tasks. Lena remained in her observation position, watching the compound, running through the assault sequence in her mind. Breach point, entry team flow, room clearing order, contingencies for contact. It all played out in crystal clarity, each decision point mapped, mapped and marked. She felt Mendez settle beside her again. "You think I'm making a mistake," he said. "Trusting your read instead of the obvious approach." "I think you're making the tactically sound decision based on available intelligence." "That's not what I asked." Lena lowered her rifle, looked at him. "You're doing fine, Mendez. Stop second-guessing yourself." "Hard not to when I've got someone on my team who can apparently see things the rest of us miss. Different training, different experience, doesn't make me right." "But you usually are, right?" She didn't answer. Mendez sighed. Pike told me something earlier. Said I needed to lead this team, not just follow in your wake. Said leadership isn't about having all the answers. Pike's a smart man. Yeah, well, easy for him to say. He doesn't have a walking tactical computer on his team making him look like an amateur. Lena felt a flash of frustration. I'm not trying to... I know. Mendez held up a hand. I know you're not. But Ward, you need to understand something. The rest of us? We're good soldiers, solid, competent. We've been training our whole careers to be at this level. He paused. And then you flip some internal switch and suddenly you're operating 3 levels above us. It's disorienting. I can back off, let you run it without input. That's not what I'm asking for. Mendez checked his watch. What I'm asking is that you remember we're a team, not you plus support staff. A team, which means sometimes you let us figure things out even if you already know the answer. The observation landed harder than Lena expected. He was right. She'd been so focused on executing perfectly, on proving she still had capability, that she'd forgotten how to function as part of a unit instead of a solo operator. Understood, she said quietly. I'll do better. Yeah, okay. Mendez shifted position. For what it's worth, I'm glad you're on my team, even if you're scary as hell. I'm not scary. Ward, you shot a perfect qual, set a CQB course record, and just identified 2 hidden observers I couldn't see with optics. You're terrifying. Despite everything, Lena almost smiled. I'll work on that. They fell silent, watching the compound, waiting for the assault window to open. 58 minutes later, Echo 4 was in position. They'd repositioned during a patrol gap, low-crawling the final 100 meters to the eastern wall. Now they crouched in the shadow of the compound perimeter, weapons ready, waiting for Mendez's signal. Lena's heart rate was steady at 60 beats per minute. Combat calm. The state where everything sharpened and time seemed to stretch. Mendez held up his hand, fingers counted down in the darkness. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hicks placed the breaching charge, a small frame charge designed to blow the lock and hinges. They stacked on the door. Mendez at 1, Torres at 2, Lena at 3, Hicks pulling rear security. The charge detonated with a sharp crack. Mendez kicked the door. It flew inward. They flowed through in perfect sequence. Darkness. Confusion. Simulated flashbang detonated. Strobe effect. Lena's vision adapted instantly, filtering the chaos into clear images. 2 instructors in the first room playing enemy combatants. They raised training weapons. Mendez engaged the left. Lena took the right. Both targets down. Clear. Second room. Hallway. Long and narrow. Bad angle. Torres moved to clear it. Lena grabbed his shoulder, pulled him back, pointed. In the hallway's far end, barely visible, an instructor crouched behind concealment with a training rifle oriented on the doorway. Ambush position. Torres nodded understanding. They prepped another flashbang, tossed it, waited for the bang, rushed through the disorientation. Instructor down, hallway clear. They were moving faster now, momentum building, each room flowing into the next. The compound interior was a maze of corridors and doorways, but Lena's spatial awareness tracked it all, mapping in real time, updating constantly. 4th room, central planning area. 3 instructors, hostile posture. The engagement happened in compressed seconds. Targets identified. Weapons oriented. Training rounds snapped through the air. Lena moved laterally while firing, creating angles, eliminating threats. 3 down. Command room clear, Mendez barked. Hicks was pulling rear security. We've got movement outside. They know we're here. Footsteps thundered. Shouts. The reactive squad Lena had predicted, mobilizing now, converging on their position. We need to exfil, Torres said, tension rising in his voice. Negative, Mendez said. Mission's not complete. We need to secure the intelligence materials. He was right. The scenario required them to locate and photograph classified documents before extraction, but they were running out of time. Lena scanned the room. Standard setup, desk, file cabinets, computer terminal. Where would the target materials be staged? There. A locked safe in the corner, obvious objective. Hicks, safe, open it. Hicks moved to the safe, pulled out the mechanical breaching tool, started working. Outside, the reactive squad was getting closer. Lena could hear them clearing rooms, methodical and fast, working their way toward the central area. 30 seconds. Maybe less. "Hicks, status," Mendez demanded. "Almost there? Got it." The safe popped open, documents inside. Hicks pulled them out, started photographing with his tactical camera. 20 seconds. Footsteps in the hallway. Close now. 15 seconds. "We're going to have contact," Torres said, positioning himself at the doorway. 10 seconds. "Done." Hicks shoved the documents back, secured the safe. "Move, move, move," Mendez ordered. They stacked on the exit door, a different door than they'd entered, leading to the compound's west side. Lena took point this time. They burst through into the desert night and ran directly into the reactive squad. 6 instructors, weapons up, training lasers painting Echo 4 in multiple red dots. For a frozen moment, nobody moved. Then chaos erupted. Training rounds cracked. Lena dropped, rolled, came up firing. Beside her, Mendez and Torres engaged. The instructors scattered, seeking cover, returning fire. It was a close-range brawl, fast and brutal. Lena moved through it like water, angles solving themselves, targets falling in sequence. She heard Hicks grunt, hit, out of the fight. Saw Torres take a round to his plate carrier, out. Just her and Mendez now, outnumbered 4-2. "Fall back," Mendez yelled. They retreated toward the compound wall, firing and moving, trying to create separation. But the instructors were good, pressing the advantage, flanking. Lena's back hit the wall. Nowhere left to go. Mendez took a round to the shoulder. He cursed, dropped his weapon. The laser designator on his vest lit up. Casualty. Lena was alone. 4 instructors converging, weapons oriented, certain of victory. She dropped her rifle, raised her hands. "I'm out," she said. The exercise should have ended there. Mission failure. Team eliminated. But Master Sergeant Pike stepped forward from the shadows, radio in hand. He keyed it. "Commander Cross, your asset is compromised. Authorization required." Static. Then Cross's voice, calm and clear through the speaker. "Granted. Execute Silent Edge." The words hit Lena like an electrical shock. Everything changed. The training scenario evaporated. In its place, a real tactical problem requiring real solutions. Her mind shifted gears, dropping pretense, engaging capabilities that had been idling in the background. She didn't raise her hands anymore. Lena moved. Dropped below the training laser designated for her center mass, swept the nearest instructor's legs. He went down. She stripped his training rifle in one fluid motion, brought it up, engaged the second instructor before he could react. Down. Spun. Third instructor was adjusting his aim. Too slow. Lena fired twice. Down. Fourth instructor had stepped back, creating distance, professional enough to recognize the threat shift. He fired. Lena was already moving, angle negated, closing distance. She struck his weapon aside, delivered a controlled strike to his solar plexus, pulling impact enough to not actually injure, but with enough force to make the point. He collapsed, wheezing. 4 seconds. 4 instructors. Problem solved. Lena stood in the center of the compound, breathing steady, holding the training rifle in a perfect low-ready position. Silence crashed down like a physical weight. Pike stepped forward slowly, eyes wide. Jesus Christ. Around the compound, the other instructors who'd been eliminated earlier emerged from their positions, drawn by the commotion. They stared at Lena like she'd just materialized from another dimension. Kowalski appeared from the command building, took in the scene, 4 instructors on the ground. Lena standing calm and ready, Mendez bleeding from a simulated wound but conscious enough to watch with his jaw hanging open. "What in the hell just happened?" Kowalski demanded. Pike keyed his radio. "Exercise terminated. All players return to base." "Gunny, I asked a question. And I'm telling you the exercise is over." Pike's voice carried steel. "Get these soldiers loaded up and transported back. Now." Kowalski stared at him, then at Lena, then back. "This isn't over, Master Sergeant." "No," Pike agreed quietly. "It's really not." The compound erupted into controlled chaos as instructors checked casualties, called for transport, began the process of exercise recovery. Through it all, Lena stood perfectly still, weapon lowered now, mind gradually coming back down from the elevated state. Mendez approached carefully, like approaching a startled animal. "Ward, you okay?" "Yeah, eh?" Her voice sounded distant to her own ears. "I'm okay. I don't even have words for what that was." "I know." "Did you just take down 4 instructors in 4 seconds?" "Yes." "How?" Lena looked at him. "Different training, different experience." "That's not an answer anymore, Ward. That stopped being an answer when you just did the impossible." Torres had recovered enough to stand. He walked over, face pale, eyes shocked. "You moved like... I don't even know. Like you could see the future. Like they were moving in slow motion and you were in real time." Lena said nothing. Hicks joined them, rubbing his chest where he'd been hit. "I've never seen anything like that. Not in training. Not in real life. Not in movies." He paused. "What are you?" The question hung in the desert air. Before Lena could answer, before she could figure out how to answer, Pike cut in. "That's enough. All of you, gear up for transport. We'll debrief at base." "But, Gunny, that's an order?" The team moved away reluctantly, throwing glances back at Lena like she might disappear if they looked away too long. Pike waited until they were out of earshot, then stepped close. "You need to understand something," he said quietly. "What you just did broke every cover story we've been maintaining, every explanation we've given, every reassurance that you're just a normal soldier who had a breakthrough." "I know." "Do you? Because now everyone who is here saw you operate like a special operations asset, like someone with training and capabilities way beyond standard infantry." His voice was harsh but not unkind. "You just painted a target on yourself, Ward. A big one. And I don't know if I can protect you from what comes next." Lena met his eyes. "I didn't ask to be activated, Master Sergeant." "No, but Cross did it anyway, which means something's happening, something bigger than a training exercise." In the distance, headlights appeared, transport vehicles arriving to pick up the class. Pike keyed his radio. "Commander Cross? This is Pike. We need to talk." No response, just static. He tried again, still nothing. "Convenient?" Pike muttered. He looked at Lena. "Get on the truck, stay quiet. Don't elaborate on what happened, and pray that Lieutenant Vance doesn't decide you're too much of a liability to keep around." The ride back to Iron Ridge was silent, except for the rumble of the transport truck's engine. Echo 4 sat together in the bed, but nobody spoke. Mendez stared at his hands. Torres looked out at the desert passing by. Hicks kept glancing at Lena, then looking away quickly when she noticed. The other teams had already returned. They'd completed or failed their scenarios hours earlier. Echo 4 was the last to arrive, pulling through the gate just before 0200. Lieutenant Vance was waiting at the admin building, arms crossed, expression thunderous. "Echo 4, off the truck, with me, now." They followed him inside to a conference room. The overhead lights were harsh after hours in darkness. Lena's eyes adjusted automatically, pupils contracting, processing the change without discomfort. Vance closed the door. "Sit." They sat. He remained standing, pacing, visibly struggling to control his anger. "I just got a very interesting call from Master Sergeant Pike. He tells me that during your exercise, Staff Sergeant Ward engaged and neutralized 4 instructor role players in approximately 4 seconds using hand-to-hand combat and weapons taken from an opponent." Nobody spoke. "He also tells me this happened after Commander Cross, who has no official authority over this training program, gave some kind of verbal authorization over the radio." Vance stopped pacing, looked directly at Lena. "Want to explain that to me, Staff Sergeant?" "No, sir." "Excuse me?" "I said no, sir. I'm not at liberty to discuss the circumstances." Vance's face flushed red. "You're not at liberty? You're in my command, in my training program operating under my authority?" "With respect, sir, my authorization protocols fall under a different chain of command, one that supersedes this training program." There is no chain of command that supersedes, Sir! Pike's voice from the doorway cut through the tension. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. With respect, yes, there is. Vance spun on him. Master Sergeant, you want to tell me what the hell is going on? Pike pulled a folder from under his arm, set it on the table. This arrived by courier 30 minutes ago. It's from JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command. He slid it toward Vance. You're going to want to read it. Vance opened the folder. His eyes scanned the document. With each line, his expression shifted from anger to confusion to something that looked like fear. When he finished, he set the folder down very carefully. Ward, step outside. Sir, now. Lena stood, walked out of the conference room. The hallway was empty. She stood there, listening to muffled voices through the door, unable to make out words, but catching the tone. Sharp, argumentative, stressed. 10 minutes passed. 15. The door opened. Vance emerged, face pale and drawn. He looked at Lena like she was a bomb that might detonate. You're confined to quarters until further notice. No contact with other students. No unsupervised movement around the base. Master Sergeant Pike will escort you to the barracks. Sir, what about the rest of my training? Your training here is suspended pending review by higher headquarters. Vance's voice was tight. That's all I'm authorized to tell you. Dismissed. Pike gestured. Come on, Ward. They walked across the dark compound in silence. The barracks were quiet. Everyone else already asleep or trying to be. Pike stopped outside the building. What did that document say? Lena asked. Pike was quiet for a long moment. It said that you're attached to a special access program I don't have clearance to know about. It said that Commander Cross has authority to activate you for operational purposes at his discretion. It said that your presence in this training course is complicated. Am I being kicked out? I don't know. That's above my pay grade now. He paused. What I do know is that you've got capabilities that scare people, Ward, capabilities that make them wonder if you're an asset or a liability. And right now, that question's being debated by people way above this base. I didn't ask for any of this. Maybe not, but you've got it anyway, and you're going to have to live with the consequences. Pike turned to leave, then stopped. For what it's worth, what you did out there tonight was the most impressive thing I've seen in 23 years of service. Also the most terrifying. He walked away. Lena entered the barracks. The lights were off except for dim emergency lighting. She could hear breathing, the rustle of bodies shifting in sleep. She made her way to her bunk in the darkness. Someone was sitting on it. Lena's hand moved toward her sidearm, except she wasn't carrying one. Training environment. She relaxed fractionally. It's just me, Chen's voice whispered. Don't shoot. What are you doing here? Waiting for you. Heard you guys had some excitement on your exercise. He stood, gave her space to sit. Everyone's talking about it. Torres came back looking like he'd seen a ghost. Won't tell anyone what happened, but word spreads fast. Lena sat on her bunk, suddenly exhausted. And I wanted to make sure you were okay, because whatever happened out there, it sounds like it wasn't good. The simple concern in his voice made something crack in Lena's chest. She'd been holding it together, staying professional, staying controlled, staying mission-focused. But Chen's kindness cut through all of that. I'm okay, she said quietly. Just tired. Yeah, well, Chen shifted his weight. Look, I don't know what's going on with you, don't need to know, but if you need someone to talk to or not talk to or just, I don't know, I'm around. Thanks, Chen. Yeah. Get some sleep, Ward. Tomorrow's going to be rough. He left. Lena lay back on her bunk, still in her dirty uniform, too tired to undress. Above her, the ceiling tiles were water-stained and cracked. She counted the cracks, a mindless exercise to quiet her mind. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Well done tonight. Stand by for further instructions. NC, Nathan Cross. Of course. Lena deleted the message, turned off her phone, closed her eyes. Sleep didn't come. Her mind kept replaying the engagement. 4 seconds, 4 instructors. The perfect execution of technique and timing that was only possible when the limiters were removed and she operated at full capacity. It felt good. That was the terrible part. It felt right. and now everyone knew what she was capable of. Now the questions would come. The investigations, the decisions about whether she was valuable enough to be useful or dangerous enough to be contained. Somewhere in the barracks, someone coughed. A whispered conversation drifted from another bunk. Normal sounds of military life. Lena lay awake in the darkness, feeling more alone than she'd felt in years. Morning formation at 0600 was tense and strange. The class assembled in their usual ranks, but Echo 4 stood apart, isolated by invisible walls of uncertainty and rumor. Lena felt the stares, heard the whispers that cut off when she turned her head. Lieutenant Vance addressed the formation with dark circles under his eyes, like he'd been up all night. Probably had been. Class Echo 9. Yesterday's field exercise has been cut short. Due to circumstances I'm not at liberty to discuss, we're suspending advanced phase training for 48 hours while higher headquarters reviews the program. Confused murmurs rippled through the formation. During this suspension, you will maintain normal base routine, PT, equipment maintenance, academic classes. However, there will be no live fire training and no tactical exercises until further notice. Vance paused. Questions will not be entertained. That is all. Dismissed. The formation broke. Students clustered immediately, speculation running wild. Lena started toward the barracks, but Kowalski intercepted her. Ward, you're with me. He led her to a small office in the admin building. Inside, Master Sergeant Pike sat at a desk with a laptop open. He gestured to a chair. Sit down, Ward. She sat. Kowalski closed the door, leaned against it. Pike pulled up something on his screen, turned it so Lena could see. It was footage from last night's exercise. Grainy night vision, but clear enough to see her engagement with the 4 instructors. The video played in real time, 4 seconds of movement so fast and precise it looked choreographed. Pike paused it, rewound, played it again in slow motion. Even slowed down, Lena's movements looked almost superhuman, reading attacks before they developed, responding to threats before they fully materialized, operating at a level of spatial awareness and reaction time that exceeded normal human capability. Explain this to me, Pike said quietly. I can't, Master Sergeant. Can't or won't? Both. Kowalski pushed off from the door. Ward, we've been patient. We've given you space. We've accepted non-answers and classification excuses. But this, he jabbed a finger at the screen, this requires explanation. I'm a soldier with specialized training conducting a tactical exercise. That's all I can tell you. Specialized training doesn't cover what you did. Pike leaned forward. I've worked with Delta. I've trained with SEALs. I've seen the best operators in the world work their craft. What you did last night was beyond that. It was something else entirely. Lena said nothing. Pike and Kowalski exchanged glances. Some silent communication passed between them. Finally, Pike sighed. All right, here's where we are. Lieutenant Vance has requested your immediate removal from this course on the grounds that you represent an unknown security risk. Higher headquarters is reviewing that request. Lena's stomach sank. However, Kowalski continued, we've both submitted counter-recommendations, arguing that you've demonstrated exceptional capability and should be retained and advanced. She looked up sharply. Why would you do that? Because despite everything, despite the secrecy and the weirdness and whatever the hell you really are, you're a damn good soldier, Pike said bluntly. And the military needs good soldiers more than it needs comfortable commanders. Plus, Kowalski added, whatever special access program you're attached to clearly still considers you an asset, which means someone at a very high level thinks you're valuable. We'd be idiots to waste that. Lena felt something shift in her chest. Gratitude, maybe. Or relief. These men didn't fully trust her, might even be afraid of her, but they were still willing to fight for her. Thank you, Gunnery Sergeant. Master Sergeant. Don't thank us yet, Pike said. The review board meets tomorrow. They'll make the final call. Until then, you're confined to base and restricted from training activities. Understood. One more thing. Kowalski's expression was serious. Whatever happens, whether you stay or go, we're going to need some answers eventually, Ward. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually, the questions will come from people who won't accept classified as an answer. Be ready for that. I will be, Gunnery Sergeant. They dismissed her. Lena walked back across the compound in the harsh morning sunlight, feeling the weight of eyes on her from every direction. The secret was out now. Maybe not the full truth, but enough of it that she'd never be just another soldier again. She thought about Commander Cross's message, "Stand by for further instructions." Something was happening, something bigger than this training course, bigger than her personal struggle to reclaim lost capability. She just didn't know what yet, but she'd find out soon enough. In the distance, she saw Mendez, Torres, and Hicks standing together near the barracks. When they saw her approaching, they didn't turn away or avoid her. They waited. That small gesture, waiting instead of fleeing, meant more than they probably realized. Lena walked toward her team, toward whatever came next, knowing that the comfortable anonymity she'd briefly enjoyed was gone forever. She was visible now, identified, marked, and there was no going back. Mendez spoke first. "We need to talk." Lena stopped a few feet away, gauging their body language. Not hostile, not friendly either, cautious, waiting. "Okay," she said. They moved to a spot behind the barracks, away from prying eyes and curious ears. The four of them stood in a rough circle, morning sun already heating the desert air. Torres broke the silence. "What happened out there last night wasn't normal." "No," Lena agreed. "It wasn't." "So what was it?" Hicks asked. His tone wasn't accusatory, just confused. "Because I've been trying to understand it, and I can't. You moved like you knew what they were going to do before they did it." Lena chose her words carefully. "I have training you don't. Training from a unit that doesn't officially exist, doing work that can't be discussed. That's all I can tell you." "That's not enough anymore," Mendez said flatly. "We're supposed to trust you, work with you. Maybe one day depend on you in actual combat. But how can we do that when we don't even know what you are?" "I'm a soldier, same as you." "No." Torres shook his head. "You're something else, something more, or something different. I don't know which, and that scares me." The honesty in his voice cut through Lena's defensive walls. These weren't enemies making accusations. They were teammates trying to understand something that didn't fit their framework of reality. "I understand why you're scared," she said quietly. "I would be too." "Then help us understand," Mendez pressed. "Give us something, anything, because right now all we have are questions and nightmares about what you did to those instructors." Lena looked at each of them in turn. Mendez, solid and dependable, struggling with something beyond his experience. Torres, analytical and precise, unable to categorize what he'd witnessed. Hicks, younger than the others, still forming his understanding of what military service meant. They deserved something. Not the full truth, she couldn't give them that, but something real. "After my injury," she began slowly, "the one that took me out of my previous unit, I lost access to certain capabilities. Capabilities that had been built into me through specialized conditioning. It wasn't psychological trauma in the normal sense. It was architectural, like losing the password to a locked room in my own mind." "The blast scrambled your wiring," Mendez said, understanding dawning. "Essentially, yes. For 3 years I've been locked out of those capabilities, operating at maybe 30% of what I was trained to do, and then Commander Cross gave me the authorization code that unlocked it again." "Silent Edge," Torres said. "That's what he called over the radio." Lena nodded. "It's a verbal trigger designed to reactivate dormant conditioning when needed. There are safeguards, protocols, rules of engagement hardwired so deep I can't violate them even if I wanted to." "Like what kind of rules?" Hicks asked. "I can't harm friendlies. Can't operate without proper authorization. Can't use lethal force except in designated circumstances. The conditioning has fail-safes built in." She paused. "At least, it's supposed to." "You don't sound certain about that," Mendez observed. 3 years is a long time. The blast damaged things. I don't know if all the safeguards are still intact. I don't know if I'm exactly what I was before or something slightly different." Lena met his eyes. "That's the truth. I don't have all the answers either." The admission seemed to ease some of their tension. Not all of it, but enough to shift the dynamic from confrontation to conversation. "What was the unit?" Torres asked. "The one you were in before?" "I can't tell you that." Can't or won't? Both. It's classified above your clearance, above most people's clearance. Mendez crossed his arms. And now Cross has reactivated you. Which means what? You're back in the game? Back doing whatever Black Ops nonsense you did before? I don't know. He told me to stand by for instructions, that's all I have. Meanwhile, you're here, with us, in a training course for regular infantry NCOs. Torres frowned. Why? Why would someone with your capabilities need this course? Lena had asked herself the same question. Because when I lost access to my conditioning, I needed somewhere to go, some way to prove I could still function as a soldier. This course was supposed to be my restart, my way back into normal service. Except there's nothing normal about you, Hicks said. No, I guess there isn't. They stood in silence, processing. Above them, a helicopter passed overhead, some routine flight, blades chopping the air into rhythmic beats. Finally, Mendez spoke. Here's what I need to know. Right now, in this moment, are you in control? Yes. Can you turn it off, the enhanced capabilities? Lena considered. Not easily. Once activated, it stays active until the authorization expires or I receive a stand-down order. But I can control how I use it. I'm not a loose weapon. How long until authorization expires? I don't know. Cross didn't specify. Could be hours, could be days. Mendez nodded slowly. Okay. Here's where I stand. I don't fully understand what you are. I'm not sure I trust it, but you've been straight with us just now, which is more than you had to be. He paused. So I'm willing to work with you, for now. But if you become a danger to this team, I will report you. Clear? Crystal. Torres? Hicks? You good with that? Torres hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, I'm good. Hicks shrugged. She saved our asses last night. I'm good. All right then. Mendez extended his hand. We're a team. That means we trust each other until we can't anymore. Lena shook his hand, then Torres's, then Hicks's. The gesture was small but meaningful. They'd chosen to trust her despite their fear. That was worth more than compliance or forced acceptance. One more thing, Torres said. If they kick you out of this course, if they decide you're too risky or too whatever, what happens to you? I don't know, Lena admitted. Probably reassignment to the unit I came from, or medical discharge if they decide I'm too unpredictable. That would be a waste, Mendez said. Maybe. Or maybe it would be safer for everyone. You don't believe that? No, but I understand why others might. They dispersed then, each heading to their assigned tasks for the day. Lena watched them go, feeling slightly less isolated than she had an hour before. Small progress, but progress nonetheless. The rest of the day passed in uncomfortable limbo. Academic classes on tactical decision-making and mission planning, equipment maintenance, PT that felt hollow without a training objective. Lena moved through it mechanically, aware of the stares and whispers that followed her everywhere. At 1600 hours, Master Sergeant Pike found her in the armory, cleaning weapons that were already clean. Ward, Lieutenant Vance wants to see you. Lena set down the rifle she'd been working on. Now? Now. She followed Pike across the compound to the admin building. Inside, Vance's office was small and Spartan. Desk, chairs, file cabinet, American flag in the corner. Vance sat behind his desk, looking older than his 36 years. Sit down, Staff Sergeant. Lena sat. Pike remained standing by the door. Vance pulled out a folder, opened it. I received the review board's preliminary decision an hour ago. Lena's heart rate kicked up slightly. Preliminary. Not final. That could mean anything. They've decided to retain you in the training program. Relief flooded through her. She kept her expression neutral. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. Vance leaned forward. There are conditions. Significant ones. I'm listening, sir. First, you will undergo a full psychological evaluation by a military psychologist with appropriate clearance. That evaluation will determine if you're mentally fit for continued service. Understood, sir. Second, Commander Cross has been ordered to provide this command with a liaison officer who can explain your capabilities and limitations in classified briefings to myself and senior cadre. We won't be operating blind anymore. That made sense. and honestly, it was probably overdue. Third, any future activation of your enhanced capabilities during training exercises requires my explicit approval. No more surprise authorizations from outside command. If Cross wants to use you, he goes through me first. Sir, I'm not sure Commander Cross will agree to that. He already has. It was a condition of your retention. He either accepts oversight or you're removed from this program entirely. Vance's expression was hard. He chose oversight. Lena processed that. Cross had agreed to limit his operational control over her in exchange for keeping her in the course. That suggested he wanted her here for a reason beyond just training. Understood, sir. Fourth and final, you will complete this course. Not just pass it, excel at it. Because if you fail, if you wash out after all this controversy and accommodation, it reflects badly on this program and everyone who vouched for you. Vance paused. That includes Master Sergeant Pike and Gunnery Sergeant Kowalski, who stuck their necks out for you. Don't make them regret it. I won't, sir. Vance closed the folder. The psychological evaluation is scheduled for tomorrow at 0900 hours. The psychologist is flying in from Fort Bragg. She has TS/SCI clearance and access to your full service record. Be honest with her. Don't try to game the eval. She'll see right through it. Yes, sir. Dismissed. Lena stood, started to leave. Pike opened the door for her. Ward, Vance called. She turned back. For what it's worth, I hope you make it through this. I really do. The sincerity in his voice surprised her. Thank you, sir. She left. In the hallway, Pike fell into step beside her. You got lucky, Ward. I know, Master Sergeant. The liaison officer arrives tomorrow afternoon. You'll brief them on your capabilities, limitations, and the circumstances of your conditioning. Full disclosure. Even the classified parts? They'll have the clearance. Cross made sure of it. Pike stopped at the building exit. This is your chance, Ward. Your chance to prove you can function within normal command structures despite your enhancements. Don't waste it. I don't plan to, Master Sergeant. Good, because if this goes south, if you become a liability or a security risk, I will personally ensure you're removed from service. Not out of malice, out of necessity. I understand, Master Sergeant. I hope you do. He walked away. Lena stepped outside into the late afternoon heat, mind churning through the new parameters. Psychological evaluation, liaison officer, oversight on her activation. All of it made sense from a command perspective. All of it also meant more scrutiny, more questions, more opportunities for things to go wrong. But she was still in the program, still had a chance to complete what she'd started. That was enough. For now. Maseb. That evening, Chen found her running laps around the perimeter road. He fell into pace beside her, matching her stride for stride. They ran in silence for a full lap before he spoke. Heard you're staying. Yeah. Also heard there are conditions. There are. You okay with that? Lena glanced at him. Do I have a choice? There's always a choice, Ward. Sometimes all the options just suck. Despite everything, she almost smiled. Fair point. They ran another quarter lap. Chen's breathing was steady, controlled. He was in good shape, keeping up with her enhanced pace without obvious strain. People are talking, he said eventually, about what happened during the field X, about what you did. I know. Some of them are scared. Think you're dangerous. Think you're a ticking bomb waiting to go off. Are you one of them? Chen was quiet for a moment. No. I think you're someone who's been carrying something heavy for a long time. And now people can see the weight you've been hiding. That's not the same as being dangerous. The observation was more insightful than Lena expected. Thanks, Chen. Don't thank me. Just keep being honest. People can handle weird. They can even handle scary. What they can't handle is deception. He paused. You've been straight with your team. Keep being straight with everyone else, and you'll get through this. You sound pretty confident about that. Yeah, well, I'm an optimist. Sometimes it's annoying. Mostly it works out. They finished the lap and slowed to a walk. Chen bent over, hands on knees, catching his breath. You run that fast all the time now? He asked. It's comfortable. Man, what I wouldn't give for comfortable to be a 7-minute mile. He straightened. Seriously though, Ward, you need anything, you let me know. I will. And hey, tomorrow's psych eval? Don't overthink it. Just be yourself. That's all they're looking for. Which self? Lena asked quietly. Chen studied her face, then shrugged. Whichever one's real. He jogged off toward the barracks. Lena stood alone on the perimeter road as the sun set behind the desert hills, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. Which self was real? The locked version who struggled with basic tasks? The unlocked version who operated at superhuman efficiency? Both? Neither? She didn't have an answer, but tomorrow she'd have to find one. Dr. Sarah Kimura arrived at 0845 hours. Lena watched from the admin building window as a civilian sedan pulled through the gate and parked near the headquarters. A woman in her mid-40s emerged, professional attire, confident posture, carrying a briefcase and laptop bag. Pike met her, shook hands, led her inside. 15 minutes later, Lena was sitting across from Dr. Kimura in a small conference room, the door closed, the building quiet. Staff Sergeant Ward, Kimura said, setting up a recording device on the table between them. I'm Dr. Sarah Kimura, clinical psychologist with the Defense Health Agency. I specialize in evaluations for personnel involved in classified programs. Everything we discuss here is confidential within the limits of your security clearance and mine. Do you understand? Yes, ma'am. Good. This isn't an interrogation. It's an evaluation to determine your psychological fitness for continued service given your unique circumstances. Kimura opened her laptop, pulled up files. I've reviewed your complete service record, including the classified portions. I know about your previous unit, your conditioning, the blast injury, and the recent reactivation, so we don't need to dance around those topics. Lena relaxed fractionally. Dealing with someone who actually knew the full context was refreshing. How are you feeling right now? Kimura asked. Anxious, uncertain. About the evaluation? About everything. Kimura made a note. Tell me about the last 72 hours, starting with the CQB exercise where Commander Cross first reactivated you. Lena walked through it chronologically. The drill, the activation, the perfect performance, the aftermath. Kimura listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes. How did it feel? Kimura asked. The moment of reactivation? Like waking up, like I'd been half asleep for 3 years and suddenly I was fully conscious again. Was it frightening? No, it was relief. Everything that had been hard suddenly became easy. Everything that had been confusing became clear. And since then? How has it been operating with the conditioning active? Lena considered. It's been good. My body works the way it's supposed to. My mind processes information at the speed it was trained to. I feel competent again. But, Kimura prompted. But everyone treats me differently now. Like I'm dangerous, like I might snap and hurt someone. Are they wrong to think that? The question was direct, clinical. Lena appreciated it. I don't think so. The conditioning has safeguards, but I can't prove the safeguards are still intact after 3 years of dormancy. I can't guarantee I'm exactly what I was before the blast. Do you feel any different? Sometimes, there are moments where my responses feel sharper, more aggressive than they should be, like the calibration is slightly off. Kimura made extensive notes. Have you acted on those aggressive impulses? No, they're just flashes, momentary, gone as soon as I recognize them. Give me an example. Lena thought back. During the field exercise, when the instructors had us surrounded and I was activated, there was a moment where I wanted to keep fighting even after they were down, wanted to make sure they stayed down. It only lasted a second, but it was there. Did you act on it? No. The safeguards kicked in. I recognized friendlies and stood down. So the safeguards worked. That time, yes. But you're worried they won't always work. Lena met Kimura's eyes. I'm worried that 3 years of damage plus reactivation might have created something slightly different than what I was. Something with the same capabilities but less reliable control. Kimura was quiet for a long moment, typing notes. That's a very self-aware concern, Staff Sergeant. Most people with your conditioning don't question themselves this way. They trust the system implicitly. Maybe I trusted it less after it failed me. The system didn't fail you. The blast disrupted it. Is there a difference? Yes. Failure implies design flaw. Disruption implies external damage. One suggests the conditioning was never safe. The other suggests it can be restored to safety with proper recalibration. Lena hadn't thought of it that way. So you think I can be recalibrated? I think it's possible, but it would require extensive testing, monitoring, and likely some time in a controlled environment working with specialists who understand your specific conditioning model. Kimura paused. That's not what you want to hear, is it? No, ma'am. I want to hear that I'm fine and can continue training. I can't tell you that yet. I need to run more assessments. Kimura pulled out a tablet, opened an application. We're going to do a series of cognitive and behavioral tests. They'll measure your reaction times, decision-making processes, impulse control, and ethical reasoning. Some of them will seem simple. Others will be deliberately stressful. Just respond honestly. The testing took 3 hours. Scenario-based questions about use of force, ethical dilemmas, tactical decisions under pressure. Reaction time tests that measured her enhanced capabilities against normal baselines. Memory exercises, pattern recognition, emotional regulation assessments. By the time Kimura called for a break, Lena was mentally exhausted in a way physical training never made her. 15 minutes, Kimura said. Get some water, stretch, clear your head. Lena stepped outside the conference room. Pike was waiting in the hallway. How's it going? He asked. Hard to tell. She's thorough. That's good. Means she's taking it seriously. Pike handed her a bottle of water. The liaison officer arrived while you were in there. Commander from Special Operations Command. He's waiting to meet with you after the eval concludes. Did he say what he wants? Briefing on your capabilities. Assessment of your operational readiness. Coordination with Lieutenant Vance on training modifications. Pike paused. He also brought sealed orders from Commander Cross. Lena's stomach tightened. For me? For you. But you can't open them until the psych eval is complete and you're cleared for duty. And if I'm not cleared, then the orders go back unopened and you get reassigned to medical hold pending further evaluation. The stakes were clear. Pass the eval, get the orders, continue forward, fail the eval, lose everything. No pressure, right? Lena said dryly. Just another day in paradise. Pike checked his watch. Break's almost up. Get back in there and show her you're not crazy. I'll do my best, Master Sergeant. The afternoon session was more intense. Stress scenarios designed to trigger the aggressive impulses she'd mentioned earlier. Kimura presented situations where violence seemed like the obvious answer and measured how Lena responded. Hostage scenario with limited options. Ambush scenario with overwhelming force. Friendly fire scenario with split-second decisions. Lena worked through each one methodically, explaining her reasoning, acknowledging when she felt the pull toward excessive force, demonstrating how she overrode those impulses with tactical logic and rules of engagement. By 1600 hours, Kimura shut down her equipment. That's all I need, she said. I'll compile my report tonight and have recommendations ready by tomorrow morning. Can you tell me anything now? Kimura considered. Unofficially, you're one of the most self-aware enhanced operators I've evaluated. You recognize your limitations, question your impulses, and demonstrate consistent application of ethical reasoning despite your conditioning. She paused. But you're also operating with unverified safeguards after significant neural trauma. That's a risk factor I can't ignore. So what does that mean? It means my recommendation will be conditional. You can continue training, but with regular monitoring and mandatory check-ins. If at any point you demonstrate impulse control issues or safeguard failures, you'll be immediately removed for recalibration. That's fair, Lena said. Is it? Because from what I understand, you've been fighting to get back to this point for 3 years. Regular monitoring might feel like a leash. Maybe. But it's better than being locked out entirely. Kimura smiled slightly. That's a healthy perspective, Staff Sergeant. Maintain it. She packed up her equipment and left. Lena sat alone in the conference room, emotionally drained but hopeful. Conditional approval was still approval. Pike knocked on the doorframe. You ready for the liaison officer? As ready as I'll ever be. Good. Because he's been waiting for 2 hours and he's not the patient type. The liaison officer was Commander James Garrett, early 40s, ramrod posture, eyes that calculated everything they saw. He wore Navy fatigues with SEAL Trident insignia and a stack of ribbons that told a story of extensive combat experience. They met in Lieutenant Vance's office. Vance, Pike, Kowalski, Garrett, and Lena. Garrett stood, extended his hand. Staff Sergeant Ward, Commander James Garrett, SOCOM. I'm here to serve as liaison between your previous unit and this training command. Lena shook his hand. His grip was firm, professional. Sit down, everyone, Vance said. They sat. Commander Garrett has been briefed on the situation and has full access to Staff Sergeant Ward's classified record. He'll be coordinating any future activations and providing oversight on training modifications. Garrett opened a folder. Let me start by saying that Commander Cross sends his regards and his apologies for the unconventional nature of your reactivation during the field exercise. Does he? Lena said flatly. He does. The decision to activate you was made in response to escalating threat indicators in several theaters. We needed to verify that your capabilities were restored and operational. The field exercise provided an opportunity to test that in a controlled environment. That wasn't controlled. That was a live training exercise with my classmates present. Hence the apology. Garrett's expression didn't change. But it was necessary, and the results confirmed what we needed to know. You're operational again, fully. Vance leaned forward. Commander, with respect, what exactly are Staff Sergeant Ward's capabilities? What am I dealing with here? Garrett looked at Lena. With your permission, Staff Sergeant? It was a courtesy. They all had the clearance, but asking permission gave her agency in a situation where she had little. Go ahead, sir. Garrett addressed the room. Staff Sergeant Ward is a graduate of a classified program called Silent Edge. It's a specialized conditioning protocol developed for deep penetration operations in denied areas. The conditioning enhances cognitive processing, reaction time, spatial awareness, and tactical decision-making through a combination of neurological training, biochemical optimization, and psychological architecture. Kowalski's eyes widened. You're talking about human enhancement. I'm talking about maximizing existing human potential through intensive training and managed neuroplasticity, Garrett corrected. Everything Ward can do is theoretically possible for any human. The conditioning just makes it accessible and reliable. How many people have gone through this program? Pike asked. That's classified. But it's a small number, very small. The screening is rigorous and the failure rate is high. And the blast injury? Vance asked. What did it do to her? It disrupted the neural pathways that access the conditioning, like cutting the wires to a computer. The computer still works, you just can't turn it on. For 3 years, Ward operated with her baseline capabilities only. Until Commander Cross reactivated her. Correct? The verbal authorization code restored access to the conditioned neural pathways. She's now operating at full capability again. Lena listened to them discuss her like she wasn't in the room. It was simultaneously frustrating and relieving. Frustrating to be objectified, relieving to have the truth out in the open. Vance turned to her. Staff Sergeant, in your professional opinion, are you safe to continue training with other students? Yes, sir. I believe so. Believe or no? Believe. I can't guarantee zero risk, but I can guarantee I'll do everything in my power to operate within the safeguards and rules of engagement. Garrett spoke up. The conditioning includes fail-safes that prevent harm to friendlies. Those fail-safes have never been documented to fail except in cases of catastrophic brain injury. Ward's injury wasn't catastrophic, it was disruptive. The architecture is still intact. You can verify that? Kowalski asked. Dr. Kimura's evaluation will provide verification. If she clears Ward for duty, that's our confirmation that the safeguards are functional. Vance nodded slowly. All right, assuming Dr. Kimura clears her, what happens next? Garrett pulled out a sealed envelope. Commander Cross has issued new orders for Staff Sergeant Ward. She'll complete this training course as planned, then report to a specialized unit for advanced integration training. The goal is to have her fully operational for deployment within 6 months. Deployment where? Lena asked. That's need to know. You'll be briefed when the time comes. And if I don't want deployment? If I want to return to normal service? The room went quiet. Garrett met her eyes. That's not an option, Staff Sergeant. You're too valuable, too rare. The military invested significant resources in your conditioning, and it's extremely rare that we can recover assets after the kind of injury you sustained. Now that you're operational again, you will be utilized. I didn't ask to be reactivated. No, but you volunteered for the program originally. You signed the contracts. You knew the terms. He was right. She had signed, had volunteered, had agreed to become something more than a standard soldier with all the obligations that entailed. But that was before the blast. Before 3 years of struggling and failing and fighting to be normal. I understand, sir, she said quietly. Garrett softened slightly. For what it's worth, Ward, you're good at this. Exceptionally good. The world needs people like you doing work that others can't. That's not a burden. It's a calling. Feels like a burden right now, sir. It does, but it won't always. Trust me on that. The meeting wrapped up with logistics. Garrett would remain at Iron Ridge for another week, observing training and coordinating with Vance on any modifications needed to accommodate Lena's capabilities. Dr. Kimura's final report would be delivered in the morning. The sealed orders would be opened after clearance was confirmed. They were dismissed. Lena walked out of the admin building into the cool evening air, mind spinning. 6 months to deployment. Back into the world of classified operations and deniable actions. Back to being a weapon instead of a person. Was that really what she wanted? Or had she just been conditioned to think it was? Ward. She turned. Commander Garrett stood on the steps behind her. Walk with me, he said. They walked along the perimeter road in silence for a while. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the desert. Finally, Garrett spoke. You're angry. Yes, sir. At Cross? At me? At the system? All of it. That's fair. He stopped walking, turned to face her. Let me tell you something that's not in any file. Commander Cross fought for you. When your injury happened, when it became clear you'd lost access to your conditioning, there were people who wanted to write you off, discharge you, bury your file, move on. Cross refused. He kept you on the books, kept monitoring your recovery, kept looking for a way to bring you back. Why? Because you're exceptional, Ward. Not just your capabilities, you as a person. Your integrity, your dedication, your ability to operate in moral gray areas without losing yourself. Those qualities are rare. Cross recognized that. So did I. Lena looked away. I don't feel exceptional. I feel like a tool being picked up and used. Then change the dynamic. Be more than a tool. Own your capabilities. Use them with purpose and intention. Garrett paused. You have power, Ward. Real power. Most people never get that. Don't waste it being bitter about having it. Easy for you to say, sir. Is it? You think I haven't struggled with similar questions? Every operator with our capabilities does. He started walking again. The difference is whether you let the struggle paralyze you or motivate you. Your choice. They completed the lap in silence. When they returned to the admin building, Garrett said, Dr. Kimura will clear you. I've seen her preliminary notes. You'll get your orders tomorrow. After that, you have a decision to make. Embrace what you are and excel at it, or fight it and be miserable. Both are valid choices, but only one leads anywhere worth going. He walked away. Lena stood alone as the last light faded from the sky, Garrett's words echoing in her mind. Embrace what you are. But what was she really? A soldier? A weapon? A person with extraordinary capabilities and insufficient control? All of the above. None of the above. Tomorrow she'd know whether she could stay in the training program, whether she could continue fighting to define herself on her own terms, whether any of it mattered in the face of orders and obligations she'd agreed to years ago. The questions had no easy answers, but at least now they were being asked honestly. That was something. It had to be enough. Morning came with clarity. Lena hadn't expected. She woke before reveille, before the sun touched the desert hills, in that perfect quiet when the world held its breath. For a moment she just lay there, listening to the soft breathing of her barracks mates, feeling the familiar weight of uncertainty she'd carried for 3 years. And then she let it go. Not all at once, not dramatically, just a slow exhale of acceptance. She was what she was, enhanced, conditioned, different. Fighting that truth hadn't made it less real. It had only made her miserable. Garrett was right. Time to stop resisting and start choosing. At 600, the barracks erupted into morning chaos. Alarms, groans, the shuffle of bodies moving toward showers and uniforms. Lena dressed quickly, efficiently, and headed outside for her run before formation. Chen caught up with her at the perimeter road. "Big day," he said, falling into stride. "Yeah." "You nervous?" "Not anymore." He glanced at her. "That's either really good or really concerning. It's acceptance. Whatever Dr. Kimura decides, whatever happens next, I'm done fighting myself." "Huh." Chen ran in silence for a while. "That's probably healthy, I think. Hard to tell with you sometimes." Despite everything, Lena smiled. "Thanks, Chen." "Anytime, Ward. Anytime." They finished the run as the sun broke over the horizon, painting the desert in gold and amber. Formation assembled. Lieutenant Vance called the class to attention. "At ease, Staff Sergeant Ward front and center." Lena's stomach tightened, but she moved forward calmly. The entire class watched. Vance held a folder. "Dr. Kimura submitted her evaluation report at 0530 this morning. I've reviewed it with Commander Garrett and the senior cadre." He paused. "Staff Sergeant Ward, you are cleared for continued training with conditions. You will report to Dr. Kimura for weekly psychological assessments. You will notify the cadre immediately if you experience any impulse control issues or safeguard malfunctions, and you will operate under the direct oversight of Commander Garrett for the remainder of this training cycle." Relief washed through her. "Yes, sir. Understood." "Additionally, you are hereby promoted to the advanced training track with accelerated curriculum. Upon graduation, you will report to your follow-on assignment as directed by Special Operations Command." Vance's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "You've earned this, Ward. Don't waste it." "I won't, sir." "Fall back in." She returned to formation, aware of every eye on her, but the stares felt different now, less fear, more curiosity, maybe even respect. After formation, Mendez approached her with Torres and Hicks in tow. "So you're staying," Mendez said. "I'm staying, and we're stuck with you." "Looks like it," Torres grinned. "Good. We need someone to make the rest of us look bad. Keeps us humble." Hicks punched his shoulder. "Speak for yourself. I'm taking notes. Gonna figure out her secrets." "There are no secrets," Lena said. "Just training and discipline." "And superhuman conditioning," Mendez added dryly. "Minor detail." They laughed. Actual, genuine laughter. The tension that had hung between them for days evaporated like morning dew. "Come on," Mendez said. "We've got CQB drills in 30 minutes. Let's see if you can teach us mere mortals something useful." They walked toward the shoot house together, a team again. Imperfect, unequal in capability, but functional. That was enough. The next 2 weeks passed in intense, focused training. Lena operated under Garrett's watchful eye, demonstrating techniques and explaining tactical principles while being careful not to overshadow her teammates. It was a delicate balance, sharing knowledge without making others feel inadequate. Pike pulled her aside after a particularly successful urban assault exercise. "You're learning," he said. "Learning what, Master Sergeant?" "How to lead without dominating. How to elevate others instead of just being better than them." He paused. "That's the difference between an operator and a leader, Ward. Operators execute. Leaders multiply force through others." "I'm trying, Master Sergeant." "I can see that. Keep it up." The days blended together. Marksmanship refinement, tactical scenarios, night operations, medical training. Lena excelled at all of it, but she also made space for her teammates to shine. Let Mendez take point on planning. Let Torres handle technical problem solving. Let Hicks demonstrate demolitions expertise. They became a genuinely cohesive unit instead of Lena plus support. Dr. Kimura's weekly sessions continued. They were less evaluative now, more conversational. Kimura asked about Lena's adjustment, her relationships with teammates, her emotional state. The monitoring was present but not oppressive. "You're adapting well. Kimura observed during their third session. Better than most enhanced operators do after reactivation. Why do you think that is? Because you spent 3 years being normal. You remember what it's like to struggle, to fail, to be limited. That gives you empathy most enhanced operators lack. Kimura made a note. Don't lose that, Ward. It's your greatest asset, not the conditioning, but the perspective you've gained from losing it and regaining it. The observation stayed with Lena long after the session ended. On Friday of the second week, Commander Garrett called her to his temporary office. "Sit down, Staff Sergeant." She sat. Garrett slid the sealed envelope across the desk, the orders from Commander Cross that had been waiting for clearance. Dr. Kimura's latest evaluation is positive. Lieutenant Vance has no concerns. You've demonstrated operational readiness and psychological stability. He tapped the envelope. These orders are yours to open now. Lena picked up the envelope, felt its weight. Inside were instructions that would define her next chapter: deployment location, unit assignment, mission parameters. The future she'd been both dreading and anticipating. "You don't have to open them right now," Garrett said. "You can wait until after graduation if you prefer." "No." Lena broke the seal, pulled out the document. Read it once. Then again, making sure she understood correctly. "Sir, this isn't a deployment order." "No, it's not. It's an instructor assignment. Advanced Tactical Training Cadre. Fort Bragg." "That's correct." But Garrett leaned back in his chair. "Commander Cross and I discussed your future extensively. We considered putting you back into operational units. But we realized something. You're more valuable teaching the next generation than executing missions yourself." Lena looked up sharply. "I thought you said I was too valuable to waste on normal service." "Teaching isn't normal service. You'll be training special operations candidates, sharing techniques and perspectives that literally no one else can provide, multiplying your capabilities through dozens of operators instead of limiting yourself to solo missions." Garrett paused. "It's also safer. For you and for the program. It gives you stability, oversight, and purpose without putting you in situations where safeguard failures could be catastrophic. You're benching me. We're positioning you where you can do the most good with the least risk. There's a difference." Lena read the orders again, mind churning. Instructor, not operator, not weapon, teacher. Part of her felt disappointed. She'd been conditioned for action, for execution, for being the tip of the spear. But another part, a quieter part, felt relieved. Teaching meant stability, meant relationships, meant building something instead of just destroying targets. "What if I want to deploy anyway?" she asked. "What if I want to be operational?" "Then we'll discuss it, but not now, not when you're still adjusting to reactivation. Give it a year as an instructor. If you still want deployment after that, we'll reconsider." It was a compromise. A middle path between being shelved entirely and being thrown back into the fire. Lena could work with that. "Understood, sir. When do I report?" 6 weeks, after you graduate this course and complete 2 weeks of transition training at the schoolhouse." Garrett stood, extended his hand. "Congratulations, Staff Sergeant. You've earned this assignment." She shook his hand. "Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me yet. Teaching is harder than operating. You'll see." Graduation day arrived with the certainty of sunrise. Class Echo 9 assembled on the parade ground in dress uniforms, boots polished to mirrors, brass gleaming. Families filled the bleachers, parents, spouses, children. The air buzzed with pride and relief. Lena stood in formation with no family present. Her sister had wanted to come, but Lena had discouraged it. This moment was personal, internal. She didn't need witnesses to validate it. Lieutenant Vance addressed the formation and the gathered crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present Class Echo 9, graduates of the Advanced Infantry Leadership course. These soldiers have demonstrated exceptional tactical proficiency, leadership under pressure, and dedication to the profession of arms. They represent the best of what our military produces, skilled, disciplined, and ready to lead in any environment." Applause rippled through the bleachers. Vance continued. "Today we recognize individual excellence within this exceptional class. The Distinguished Graduate Award, given to the soldier with the highest overall performance across all evaluated areas, goes to Staff Sergeant Lena Ward." The formation erupted in applause. Lena stepped forward, climbed the platform, accepted the certificate and coin from Vance. He leaned close as they shook hands. You earned this, Ward, not because of your enhancements, because of your character. Thank you, sir. She returned to formation as the ceremony continued. More awards, speeches, the official graduation declaration. Then it was over. Families flooded onto the field, embracing their soldiers, taking photos, celebrating. Lena stood apart, watching the joy around her with quiet satisfaction. Not bad, Ward. She turned. Master Sergeant Pike stood behind her, hands in his pockets, expression softer than she'd ever seen it. Thank you for everything, Master Sergeant, for believing in me when you had no reason to. I had reasons. Just took me a while to see them clearly. He extended his hand. You're going to make a hell of an instructor. Those candidates don't know how lucky they'll be. They shook hands. Kowalski approached next, gruff as ever, but with approval in his eyes. You turned out all right, Ward, despite being weird as hell. High praise, Gunnery Sergeant. Don't let it go to your head. He paused. Seriously, though, you did good. Proud to have had you in my class. They shook hands, too. Chen found her near the edge of the field, grinning widely. Distinguished graduate, I knew it. Team effort, Chen. Nah, you earned it solo, but you made the rest of us better in the process, so I'll take the assist. He grew more serious. You heading to Fort Bragg? Yeah, instructor assignment. Lucky cadets. They're getting someone who actually knows what she's talking about instead of just following a manual. Chen extended his fist. Lena bumped it. Stay in touch, Ward. Don't disappear into the Special Operations black hole. I'll try. Mendez, Torres, and Hicks approached together, still in their dress uniforms, faces flushed from family celebrations. Mendez spoke first. We wanted to say thanks for the last few weeks, for teaching us how to actually operate instead of just go through the motions. You guys taught me just as much, Lena said honestly. How to be part of a team again, how to trust people even when they're scared of you, how to lead without dominating. Torres pulled out his phone. Picture. We need documentation of this historic moment. They crowded together, arms around shoulders, genuine smiles. Chen took the photo, 5 soldiers who'd started as strangers and become something more. Not quite friends, not quite family. Something uniquely military. Send that to me, Lena said. Already done. The group dispersed slowly, families reclaiming their soldiers, farewells being exchanged. Lena collected her gear from the barracks, packed her few belongings into a duffel bag. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Congratulations on graduation and your new assignment. You made the right choice. Looking forward to seeing what you build at Bragg. NC. Commander Cross. Always watching. Always 3 moves ahead. Lena typed a response. Thank you for giving me a second chance. I won't waste it. The reply came immediately. You never do. She pocketed her phone, shouldered her duffel, took one last look at Iron Ridge Tactical Center. The ranges where she'd failed, the shoot house where she'd been reborn, the barracks where she'd learned to live with herself again. This place had broken her down and built her back up, not into what she'd been before. Something different, something better. You need a ride to the airport? Doctor. Kimura stood near the parking lot, car keys in hand. I thought you left yesterday, Lena said. I did. Came back for graduation. Wanted to see how the story ended. This isn't an ending, just a new chapter. Even better, Kimura gestured to her car. Come on, we can talk on the way. They drove through the desert as the sun climbed higher, heat shimmers already rising from the asphalt. How do you feel? Kimura asked. Good, uncertain, hopeful, all of it. That's healthy. The day you stop feeling uncertain is the day you stop growing. Kimura glanced at her. You're going to be an excellent instructor, Ward. You have the experience, the expertise, and most importantly, the empathy. You remember what it's like to struggle. Everyone keeps saying that. Because it's true. And because it's rare. Most enhanced operators lose touch with their baseline humanity. You never will. That 3-year lockout period gave you something invaluable, perspective. They drove in comfortable silence for a while. Finally, Lena asked the question that had been bothering her. Do you think I'll ever be fully normal again? without the conditioning active? Kimura considered. Define normal. Able to function without enhanced capabilities, without needing verbal authorization codes and monitoring and oversight. Honestly, I don't know. The conditioning is deeply integrated now. Even if we could deactivate it again, I'm not sure you'd want us to. It's part of who you are. Kimura paused. But here's what I do know. You're not defined by your capabilities, Ward. You're defined by your choices. Normal people make bad choices all the time. Enhanced operators make good ones. The capabilities don't determine the outcome. The person does. So it doesn't matter if I'm enhanced or baseline. It matters tactically. It doesn't matter ethically. You're still responsible for your actions regardless of your processing speed or reaction time. The observation was both obvious and profound. Lena had spent so long worrying about what she was capable of that she'd forgotten to focus on what she chose to do with those capabilities. The airport appeared on the horizon, small and dusty against the desert landscape. Kimura pulled up to departures. "This is your stop." Lena grabbed her duffel from the back seat. "Thanks for the ride. And for everything else." "You're welcome. And Ward, one last piece of advice." "Yeah? Don't hide what you are. Don't apologize for it. But don't let it become all you are either. You're a soldier, yes. An enhanced operator, yes. But you're also a teacher now, a mentor. Maybe eventually a leader of more than just tactical teams." Kimura smiled. "There's a whole person in there beyond the conditioning. Make sure she gets room to breathe." Lena nodded, throat unexpectedly tight. "I will. Good luck at Bragg." "Thanks." She watched Kimura drive away, then turned toward the terminal. Inside, the airport was small and quiet. A few gates, a handful of travelers. Lena checked in, moved through security, found her gate. An hour until boarding. She sat in an uncomfortable plastic chair and pulled out her phone. Scrolled through the photo Torres had taken, 5 soldiers grinning at the camera, arms linked, genuine camaraderie captured in pixels. She set it as her wallpaper. Then she opened a new message to her sister. "Hey Sarah, graduated today, distinguished graduate. Starting a new assignment in 6 weeks, teaching at Fort Bragg. Things are good, really good. I'll call you soon. Love you." The response came within minutes. "So proud of you. Call me tonight. I want details. All of them." Lena smiled. Sarah had been there through the worst of it. The injury, the recovery, the years of struggling and failing. She deserved to know about the victory. Boarding began. Lena joined the line, duffel over her shoulder, uniform crisp, posture confident. The flight attendant smiled as she scanned Lena's ticket. "Thank you for your service?" "Thank you." Lena found her seat by the window, stowed her gear, settled in. The plane filled around her, business travelers, families, other soldiers heading to different assignments. Normal people living normal lives. And Lena, sitting among them, feeling for the first time in 3 years like she might belong. The plane taxied, lifted off, climbed into the brilliant Arizona sky. Below, Iron Ridge grew smaller, the desert sprawling endlessly in all directions. Lena pressed her forehead against the cool window and thought about the journey from failure to breakthrough, from isolation to acceptance, from being broken to being rebuilt. Not the same as before. Better. Stronger in some ways, more human in others. The conditioning gave her capabilities. The struggle gave her character. Together, they made her something rare and valuable. Not because she was enhanced, but because she'd learned to carry that enhancement with humility and purpose. The plane leveled off. Seatbelt sign dinged off. Around her, passengers pulled out laptops and books and headphones. Lena closed her eyes and let herself rest, knowing that Fort Bragg waited with new challenges and new opportunities, knowing that she was ready for them. Not because she was fearless, but because she'd learned to move forward despite fear. Not because she had all the answers, but because she'd learned to trust the process of finding them. Not because she was perfect, but because she'd stopped trying to be. 6 weeks later, Lena stood before her first class at Fort Bragg. 20 special operations candidates, all of them experienced, all of them skeptical of the quiet woman in instructor fatigues who looked too small to be dangerous. "Good morning," she said calmly. "I'm Staff Sergeant Ward. For the next 12 weeks, I'll be teaching you advanced close quarters battle techniques and tactical decision-making under pressure. A hand raised. Young sergeant, confident smile. With respect, Staff Sergeant, what makes you qualified to teach special operations candidates? Lena had expected the question, had prepared for it. That's a fair question, Sergeant. Let me show you. She moved to the demonstration mat at the front of the room, gestured to the largest candidate, easily 6'2", 220, built like a linebacker. Come here. Try to stop me from getting past you to that door. He grinned, stepped forward. Seriously? Seriously. What happened next took 3 seconds. Lena moved. Not fast. Inevitable. Feinted left. The candidate committed. She was already right. Past his guard. Through his space. Hand on the door before he fully registered the movement. She turned back to face the class. Every face showed the same expression. Shock, transitioning to respect. I was injured 3 years ago, she said quietly. Lost access to capabilities I'd spent years developing. Had to relearn how to operate at baseline. That struggle taught me something important. Technique matters more than talent. Discipline beats instinct, and the willingness to adapt is worth more than raw capability. She paused, making eye contact with each candidate. Over the next 12 weeks, I'm going to teach you how to maximize your existing skills through refined technique, tactical creativity, and psychological preparation. Some of you will embrace it, some will resist, but all of you will be better operators when we're done. The linebacker candidate found his voice. How did you... Different training, different experience, and a lot of time spent learning from failure. Lena smiled slightly. Trust me, I've failed more than most of you combined. That's what makes me qualified. The class laughed, tension breaking. She spent the next hour outlining the curriculum, answering questions, establishing expectations. By the end, the skepticism had transformed into genuine interest. This was her element now, not executing missions, building executors. After class, she walked across the Bragg compound toward her quarters, feeling settled in a way she hadn't felt in years. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mendez. Heard you started teaching. How'd the first day go? Lena replied, Better than expected. These candidates might actually survive me. They're lucky to have you. Stay dangerous, Ward. Always. She pocketed her phone, looked up at the Carolina sky. Different from Arizona. Greener, softer, but still vast and full of possibility. Somewhere out there, Mendez, Torres, Hicks, and Chen were serving in their own units, applying lessons learned at Iron Ridge. Somewhere, Dr. Kimura was evaluating other enhanced operators, helping them navigate the psychological complexity of augmented capability. Somewhere, Commander Cross was orchestrating operations that would never make the news. And here, Lena was building the next generation of operators who would execute those missions with skill and integrity and perspective. It was good work, important work, the kind that mattered beyond individual glory or achievement. She'd spent 3 years lost, another few weeks finding herself, and now she was exactly where she needed to be, not because someone ordered her there, because she chose it. That made all the difference. The sun set over Fort Bragg, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Lena stood on the steps of the schoolhouse, watching candidates stream out after their first grueling day, exhausted but energized. One of them, the linebacker from the morning demo, stopped near her. Staff Sergeant, can I ask you something? Go ahead. That thing you did this morning, moving like you could see the future, is that something we can learn, or is it just you? Lena thought about the question, about the conditioning and the safeguards and the years of specialized training that made her different, about the struggle and the failure and the eventual breakthrough that made her whole. Some of it's unique to my background, she admitted, but the principles, the mindset, the discipline, those can be learned by anyone willing to do the work. And you'll teach us? That's the plan. He nodded, satisfied, jogged off to catch up with his classmates. Lena remained on the steps as darkness fell, feeling the weight of responsibility and purpose settle comfortably on her shoulders. She was no longer the soldier who couldn't call on her rifle, no longer the operator who froze in doorways, no longer the lost asset struggling to remember who she'd been. She was Staff Sergeant Lena Ward, instructor, mentor, enhanced operator learning to live with enhancement as part of her identity rather than the sum of it. The journey from failure to this moment had been brutal, humbling, transformative, worth every second. She turned and walked back inside the schoolhouse, already planning tomorrow's lesson, knowing that 20 candidates were about to learn what it really meant to operate at the edge of human capability, not through shortcuts or enhancements, through discipline, technique, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. Some forces are dangerous precisely because they don't need to prove it. They simply are, quiet, competent, and utterly certain of their purpose. Lena had become that force, and she was just getting started. Never mistake silence for weakness. The most dangerous forces don't announce themselves. They simply execute with precision, discipline, and unshakable purpose. Real strength isn't found in proving what you can do, but in choosing carefully when and how to use what you are.